We live? We're live. What is up, people? I'm trying to size this again. Gosh darn it. Alright. Let me minimize that. That way I can see where the heck to size this to before I click on that. That's what that makes it a lot easier. There we go. We got the screen ready. We're live. My name's Steve. And we're about to do some stuff. Thank you, Austin, for stopping on through. Thank you, I Suck at Drawing, for the congratulations. Thank you for stopping on in. How are you doing this lovely day? I'm going to be live a lot this week, so, feel free to stop in as much as you want every day. Tonight, of course, any questions related to Waiver Wire are the main idea, the priority. But I do have my rankings so far up to date. So I'm wiping away notifications on here. So, ask away on those. Oh, yeah, we'll look at these a little bit closer in due time here. I'm doing great. I've been ready to go, and then all of a sudden I wasn't paying attention for like 4 minutes. It felt like, and it was 7 o'clock, and all of a sudden I fell behind on getting prepared for this. So, just unscattering my mind. Miriam, how is it going? Number 1 waiver wire pickup this week. It's got to be one of the running backs, I think. Let me get my stupid waiver wire up here. So you can always see this sheet up on the website, but what do we want? All right. For the running backs, I put Gus over Jeremy McNichols. I think the matchup's a little bit better for Gus there. Obviously has less upside. Full PPR, that would change. Wide receiver, there's a lot of... Or quarterback, there's a lot of options. I didn't go back and check on how I have them ranked, but at the time, earliest this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, I felt like Russell Wilson. Wide receivers, are still the same old. Tight end is kind of still the same old. Not good DSTs. So, yeah, Gus Edwards is my number 1 waiver wire option this week, Miriam. I'm not going to copy and paste my questions. I'm sorry, they are numerous and lengthy. Copy and paste if you had them all ready to go. I love it. Cece, beautiful day. How are you doing here, Cece? Jonnu Smith and Njoku, Michael. Njoku, rest of season, please. If Jonnu does better than him, that's absolutely fantastic and great for Jonnu. I would be surprised. But, yeah, he's been doing well. I replaced, 2 weeks ago, I dropped Jonnu and replaced him with Dawson Knox. That worked out well. All right, second drawing. Start 2. Okay, so, look, start sit questions, things could change, but I do have my primary or initial rankings ready. These are rough versions of my rankings, and there's, potential question marks, I suppose, this week in terms of injuries and stuff that could affect things. But Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, if he's okay. Well, I don't currently expect J.K. Dobbins to be okay, so Aaron Jones, Najee Harris. I don't have J.K. Dobbins ranked right now. So I couldn't really... I haven't gotten that far. Kareem Hunt, I don't think will be starting. So I think... Currently, I think you're stuck with Aaron Jones, Najee Harris. If J.K. Dobbins plays on Thursday, I would probably place J.K. ahead of Najee Harris. So, there you go. Start 2. Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, Cortland Sutton, Darnell Mooney, if he's okay. Yeah, we'll see on Darnell. I don't think I am ranking Darnell Mooney, eh? Is that true? No. Don't even have him in the not ranked. I do not believe Darnell Mooney will be okay, but we'll see on that. Definitely, I don't know. So for me currently, it's Puka Nakua for sure, and then I think I still have Malik Neighbors. If you don't like that, if you don't trust it, I'm thinking they're going to get him the ball a lot more. I mean, they did in the second half, that's for sure. They corrected whatever was going wrong in that first half. I have Cortland Sutton still fairly well ranked there at 14, and he's in a nice matchup. You can see I have the matchups nice and highlighted this week since I don't have the projections. I won't be having those done. So instead, I've just kind of highlighted the matchups so we can at least kind of see those. Start Mayfield or Darnold. I should just have, like, here. Where are you? Wide receiver and... Why can't I read? Move. What the heck? It won't scroll to the side. I assume that's... Nope, that's not the last one. There you go. So we got running backs over here. Wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, expected ranges. Okay. And it did it again. Which one? Do you think maybe it's this one? No, that's the quarterback. We need a running back. Okay. What did you want to know? Between the quarterbacks, start Mayfield. Currently, I have Darnold ranked 17th. I've got Baker ranked somewhere. You've probably found him before I have. There we go. Baker all the way up at 5th. Yeah, going up against Carolina. Good matchup. Baker's still been good. He's got one of his weapons back at least, and he's done well even without his weapons. So that's how I got it. I got Baker by a lot over Stafford going against New Orleans there. CC, appreciate the... Man. Hope ads don't play that often. I've seen ads already play once. Hope they're not too often. We'll see. YouTube's been a little crazy with the ads lately, I feel like. Better pickup, Demario Douglas, Tyler Algier, or Keon Coleman. So I don't think I don't know if Keon Coleman will be ready to go this week or not, really. Tyler Algier is obviously just like a good backup. And Demario seems to be a limited upside. I would say Keon Coleman for the long term. If you're looking for this week, I think Demario Douglas. And once again, thank you for the enthusiasm there, CC. John Bo, what up? How's it going? Michael did answer that one out of order there. Njoku rest of season. You also need a flex from the first question. All right. So we said Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, not expecting Kareem Hunt to be an option, or J.K. Dobbins. So Sutton would be my flex option there as well. Jerry Jeudy in a tough matchup, but, not the worst backup emergency option if you have to. Let's get my running back rankings back up here. Guys, feel free to look at the rankings. Let me know. Is there anything that you would change within the order here? Once again, green to red, essentially yellow kind of being average, and the lighter the intensity of the color, the less so, the darker the green, brighter the green, the better the matchup it is. Elite matchups there in that bright pink and that bright green. And then, this light green that you can hardly see is kind of like above average type of matchup. Light red there, below average. And then there should be, there you go. You see Amir Abdullah there. Oh, hold up. Let me see. How much of the screen can you guys see and not? Okay, there we go. So down there, you can see Amir Abdullah. There we go. I'm readjusting my screen a little bit. Okay. So chat, I can actually move you like right in the frickin' middle of everything here. Look at that. Actually, I better not. Okay, there we go. How's it going, John? It's going well. I cannot complain. Just hanging out on the first of... I'm going to be available every day all the way through Sunday. So just hanging out. And I'll be back and we'll be hanging out again. But yeah. Like I said, check out the rankings out. Let me know. if there's and why, of course, you would change the order of somebody here, move somebody up a couple spots, etc. Miriam Kim, do you think that Addison will start being consistent, or was that just a 2-week thing? Was it 2 weeks? Didn't he suck 2 weeks ago, or did I? I mean, I assume you're right. No, I'm not like a Addison guy, so I don't think he's a consistent option. I didn't think he's a consistent option coming into the season, so the fact that he's been incredibly inconsistent this year, hardly usable, does not change that opinion. So, whether it's a 2-week thing or not, really, I guess, doesn't matter for my answer to that question. When you use all of your resources to shut down one guy, yeah, somebody else is bound to be, Addison specifically, bound to be open. So that was just what that defense was willing to give up, as we've seen throughout the season. That's not how every team plays it. John Bowe's got a trade question. You can still trade in your league. How fun is that? Someone wants to give you Taysom Hill and Ramondre Stevenson for Tony Pollard. Yes, you probably take that deal, assuming that you can get some use out of Taysom Hill. But Ramondre and Tony Pollard are pretty much simpatico. Neither one of them's too much better or more established than the other here in fantasy in terms of value. And Taysom's a pretty valuable asset right now, it would appear. Chris Olave comes back. His value is going to maybe go back to his normal value, which wouldn't be great. But then you still maybe got a week out of him. Taysom. And a week out of Taysom might be a victory, and that might be worth that trade anyways, considering the value of the other two. Because, I feel like... What do we got here? Because isn't Tyjae Spears supposed to come back soon? And Pollard's definitely been different with and without Tyjae. Yeah, so, John, I should clarify here. This is assuming you're going to use Taysom Hill. If you're not using Taysom Hill at all, then, especially this week, then you're just taking a risk once again. If Chris Olave, who I know was back at practice today, he was not participating or anything. He can't come back yet. But he was out there, hanging out with the team. So that means one of two things. Either he came today to say goodbye to everybody, or he came to hang around. But I think that the value's there if you're going to use Taysom. Yeah, then I would do it. Because this week, it's not a fabulous necessarily week for Tony Pollard. I don't know. It's not the worst either. But you can see, not the worst either for Ramondre. Neighbors had 0 targets. I know it was very concerning, very frustrating, and I was hoping for the second half that we got. I was happy with that second half. Miriam Kim, Purdy or Knicks if Purdy plays? Well, they say Purdy will play, right? We'll see about that. Can't trust San Fran. But I am currently ranking Purdy. I do have him 1 spot ahead of Knicks. Now, I don't know... When do some of these teams play? Hold up. I gotta pull that up. Because so many things this week also are determined by when the teams play. NFL betting gods? No, odds. What's that betting website called? Fantasy DraftKings. There we go. Okay, so yes, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy. So they don't play until Sunday, in both cases. So for Brock Purdy, It's going to depend, and Bo Nix is Monday. Obviously, you'll get the chance to figure out if Brock Purdy's playing or not, in terms of playing Bo Nix over him. It really depends on how the news comes out for Brock Purdy. If this is a game time decision for Brock Purdy, I would probably lean into just going with Bo Nix and just playing it safe. So I don't know if I was, when I did this ranking, I don't know how much concern I was giving to Brock Purdy. I like I said, these are all just kind of initial rough rankings. I go through them more thoroughly tomorrow, and I'm taking opinions today on them as well. I'd say there's about a 60% chance that my answer is Bo Nix, but I'll have a more clear answer for you come Sunday morning. As of right now, if Brock Purdy's healthy, I like Brock Purdy a little bit more than Bo Nix. I just don't know if he's healthy and how much I trust whatever we're hearing about his health, and I'm going to try to understand that throughout the week. Thanks so much. Going to stick around for now. Appreciate it. If Dobbins is out, should I get Gus Edwards or over Najee Harris? No, I'm currently ranking Gus pretty low. It's not a good week for fantasy for waiver wire stuff. I still have Najee ranked higher than Gus. It's not that it's a great setup for Najee either. And I don't know. Maybe I'll get Gus a little bit higher. Currently, see, it's kind of the same thing for me. I think they're both pretty highly touchdown reliant. And it's both good defenses for these offenses to be able to get into situations where these guys will be able to get touchdowns. So I actually feel very similar about them. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove... I can't get to it. Should I... What do you guys think? Should I move Gus Edwards up ahead of DeAndre Swift? Or should I move him up at all? Answer me this in chat. 2 questions. Part 1, should I move him ahead of Swift? Yes or no? Part 2, should I move him up? Yes or no? Let me know. Actually, just do this. Should I move him ahead of DeAndre Swift? 1 is a yes, 2 is a no. Drop a 1 or a 2 in chat, and I'll count them up in a little bit. That'll make it easy. So, should Gus Edwards go ahead of DeAndre Swift, assuming I should say that J.K. Dobbins is not healthy for this matchup? 1 yes, 2 no. All right. Suck at drawing. We're going to figure it out. You're the one with the question. You're voting. I love it. John Bowe, rankings look good. I don't know why, but I have a good feeling about Brees this week. Yeah, Brees going up against Seattle. Yeah, I hear you. I one of those where I kept kind of getting people ahead of him, but I didn't love it. Same with Chuba Hubbard. Really, same with all 4 of these guys. I was like, gosh, I wish... I don't know. It's a full week. We've got all the running backs back. It's been a good running back year. We're back to feeling good pretty deep into the running back room. And I would say like the top 18, 19, heck, even 20, 21, 22, except this week going up against Minnesota after last week. Tough to like James Conner so much. But top 18, 20-ish, feeling pretty good about them. I mean, heck, right behind James Conner, you got Tony Pollard coming off of a big week. Maybe no Tyjae Spears back. I don't know. Rashad White going up against Carolina as well. That's nice. It's a nice week. All right, 1's in the chat for Gus Edwards being ranked ahead of DeAndre Swift. 2's for no. We got 1-1. Let's get more than 1 vote out there. John Bowe, he would be my tight end. The other offer is D-Hop instead of Hill. I'm trying to get Hill instead. Okay, that's fine then. D-Hop's been good. I think for the most part, he's not demanding like 10 targets, and I don't think he'll get to that point where he's going to be demanding 10 targets a game. There might be a game where he goes above 10 or something, but they seem to be kind of using him that 6 to 7-ish kind of target. Pretty steady in that area. Robbie D, how's it going, beautiful? I've got Mayfield on that one. Got Baker as my QB5 right now on the week. Going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's offense is a little bit better, forcing teams to, throw on them a little bit more. Yeah, I only have so many of the rankings up, so I don't know if I got them up quick or if I took them down on you there, Robbie, or not. I'm going to ask you, chat, one more time here. We've got a couple of votes in. Do you agree Gus Edwards ranked ahead of DeAndre Swift going up against Detroit? Gus Edwards going up against Atlanta. Detroit, a very tough rushing matchup. Of course, DeAndre Swift does bring the receiving upside to the game. Gus Edwards does not bring that going up against a pretty tough running back matchup against Atlanta. However, average yards per carry, I believe, is average for Atlanta. They just maybe haven't allowed so many touchdowns to running backs, or maybe they've been pretty good about preventing running backs from killing them through the air. Teams haven't attacked them through the air, whatever the case may be. It's not like they've been super stout up front. They're just kind of pretty much average in stopping running backs in terms of yards per carry, which is really what matters for Gus Edwards. It's tough. I don't know how good I feel about that or not. Gonzalez or Bass? Gonzalez is the kicker for... He's not still in Arizona, is he? And I want to throw this out there. Kansas City going up against... They're in a good matchup this week. And they're going to be signing Wright. Matthew Wright going up against Las Vegas. Well, Las Vegas plays them hard, so who knows for sure. Gonzalez or Bass, right? I do like Bass this week. I've got a couple of waivers with him. Or Gonzalez. I don't even know where he is. Zane Gonzalez. Oh, Washington signed him against Tennessee. Tennessee's been better as of lately. I'm just going to trust Bass on this one. I do like the matchup there with how San Fran's been playing and everything. I think there's a decent chance that Bass will have to be utilized. So, Tyler, I hope that helps you out there. Or I hope that works out, I should say. Siebert is on IR. Would you play Pacheco and Hunt on the same team? No, I would not. I mean, generally not. It depends what your situation is, but gosh, what did I do with Hunt? So far, I'm not ranking Hunt. If Pacheco plays, I'm really interested. They're probably not gonna... When do they play? They Friday? So they're probably not gonna activate him till... That's a Thursday, the day before the game. And it's a short week. Gosh, it's tough to tell. I'm thinking if they activate him, I'm guessing he would have been healthy anyways for this last weekend, but with the short week, they didn't want to put him in back-to-back games for the short week. So they just said, we'll give you a few extra days to get rested up. And I mean, I'm expecting him to really just drop into his role. And that's kind of how I'm ranking him. And so if they're in a split, I wouldn't feel good about either one of them. I'm backed by Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren, Jeremy McNichols territory. Heavily touchdown reliant, no receiving work really. That's the thing also, that part of why I don't think it would be both of them is like I mean, I think we'll see. I don't know what they'll do. I don't think they'll carry 4 running backs into a game, so I wonder if they can move Hunt down or how that's going to work out. That would be a big answer to that question, right? The only reason I would play them both is like, if I'm starting to look at Jeremy McNichols, you know, Javonte Williams, Devin Singletary as my other running back. Then maybe I just play them both and try to get the most out of them in a decent matchup there for running backs. Arturo, how's it going, Arturo? Nice to see you as always. Nobody in my league wants Justin Jefferson. I might need to hold him. You might need to hold him. Nobody wants him. Yeah, he's just spent meat. I don't know. I think you'll be all right having to hold on to Justin Jefferson for the most part. Tyler 8-3, congratulations. Any point of dropping Amir Abdullah and picking up Gus? I mean, I got him pretty close in my rankings. I guess if you're going to be planning on playing Amir Abdullah / Gus, yeah, I mean, then you'll know for sure if you got to play Gus or not. If the only reason that you're going to have to play him is if J.K. Dobbins sits out, and I do have Gus ranked a little bit higher. Tyler Sperry, who? Yeah, Pacheco's been practicing in full all last week as well. I mean, I've had it for like 5 weeks now. I've had this as his return week. Last week I got tricked, and I thought that he was coming back a week early, but I've had a week. I'll show you on my waiver wire list here up at the top. Well, of course, now I've changed him. Oh, no, I didn't change it. So week 13 right there. I've had it sitting like that. He was at the top for several weeks. I don't know exactly when, but I think about 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago or something, some news came out that they were targeting week 13 for his return, and that's when I put it in here. And that's been the schedule that they've been following ever since. Once again, I did get tricked a little bit last week into thinking, oh, he's coming back a week earlier than I expected, but he didn't. But all the reporting's been that he's coming back this week. So I'm yeah, pretty much not gonna mess with Kareem Hunt. Gonna go now. I'll be in chat tomorrow. I appreciate it. You guys have a good night, John Bow. All right, so I don't know what to do with Gus. I really don't. I will uncolor him. I'm prepped to move up, but I couldn't quite figure out, like, ETN with no shared workload. I like it. I don't know. This is a really close tier here. Was that the question? No, the question was Najee Harris or Gus Edwards. Maybe I'm too high on Najee? I'm gonna have to look at these a little bit closer. Currently, I would play Najee Harris over Gus Edwards. It's definitely a tough call between those two. So, John Bow, I hope you heard that. That was your question. All right. I think I've got questions answered. If I did miss a question, let me know. I wanted to... Let's see. I have other rankings. I do have, I think, a couple of rankings questions. I'm going to just kind of run through these. And I'll propose any questions that I do have. So we got Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley in the same tier here, all on their own. I actually did mean to have Saquon ahead of Joe. At the end of the day, even with the matchups being very different in terms of ease, I could not get myself to sit. If I had to make a decision between the two, I would play Saquon. Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, Bijan Robinson. Really tough, once again, to figure out a proper order for them. Then we got David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I still like that. I think the risk of Green Bay getting into a shootout type of situation with Miami is a little bit too high for me to totally trust Josh Jacobs. I mean, even in a week where he was absolutely killing it last week, went over 100 yards, it still wasn't like a massive. Well, it was. He had 3 touchdowns, but he could have easily had like 150, 160 rushing yards if they had just dedicated to using him a little bit more. And they could have in that game with how that game went. And they just didn't quite do that. So I just don't know, without getting 3 touchdowns, what the ceiling is for Josh Jacobs. James Cook against San Francisco, I think, is a very nice general matchup here. I like it a little bit more than Ken Walker against the Jets. Apparently, at some point recently, the Jets have become a little bit more of a tough running back matchup. I don't know when that happened. So then my next tier of running backs is Christian McCaffrey, John Taylor, Breece Hall, Chuba, Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving. A lot of really good matchups in here for guys who have maybe been a little bit disappointing or just kind of middling to good, RB2s on the season here. So would you change any of this up? I got a lot of grief last week for having Christian McCaffrey so low, and now I think the ECR even is kind of lower on him finally. But he's been in what's been a really good running back matchup overall this season against Buffalo. JT, once again, in a good matchup. Last week I was concerned about him, so I'm not holding that against him too much. And this is a tricky tier here. I don't know. Do I bench Terry McLaurin for Brian Thomas Jr.? Yeah. Well, I am currently expecting T-Law to play. Do I have running backs in 2 of these? Let me change this. This should not be running back. This should be wide receiver. There we go. So, okay. I got the wide receivers up here now. So Terry, I believe Tennessee, I'm not too afraid of that. It's not that Tennessee's secondary is dominant as much as the special team sucks and teams start in really good position, and so they just get fewer fantasy points against Tennessee by default. But I don't know that Washington really has some special teams that's going to take advantage of that completely, and Tennessee's offense has been more competitive as of late. So that should keep Washington passing potentially. Compared to Brian Thomas Jr. And so I pretty much ranked this out as if T-Law is playing, kind of, maybe. I don't know if I did. I think I'm just kind of waiting to hear the actual news on it, because Houston, it's a very enticing matchup, right? I don't think I'll end up having him ranked higher than Terry, but I very well might have him in the same tier. And, yeah, ahead of Zay Flowers against Philly. Calvin Ridley. I mean, I think I could get him up as high as 24 pretty easily here. This is definitely not a ranking. Yeah, this ranking, I think, is really saying I'm going to move him up right now. This is a T-Law is the quarterback ranking. So, for sure, I feel comfortable with him there. Terry's been excellent this year. I don't know. I think to me it's close, and it's just kind of like, how do you feel about the Terry McLaurin matchup? How safe, how comfortable do you feel with T-Law coming back and the worry, the injury? Brian Thomas is definitely, a little boom or bust. He doesn't get 10 targets a game. He gets 6, 7, 5 even. That's with T-Law as well. Houston, I do think, provides a little bit of, a little higher end, trying to keep up with another team. Of course, Houston hasn't been all put together. But, that's tough. I think Terry's just been too good on the season that I would probably just go ahead and trust him. What about his production? You're worried about Terry McLaurin's production? Well, that's part of Terry, though. He's a big play guy. That was that wasn't as tough of a matchup, but I mean sometimes that's what the good wide receivers do for you. Even if they're having a bad day, they make one big play. He is not the only wide receiver to have made one big play to have a good week. A lot of these guys have had weeks where they've made one big play, and that's been a big portion of the fantasy points that week. So on the season, Terry's been very good, and there's been a connection there. Tennessee's secondary doesn't really scare me too much, but if you don't like it, once again, I do think Brian Thomas Jr. is definitely a strong play. I would not argue with you. We'll end it with that. I wouldn't argue with you if you want to do that. Cap for life. I wanted to let you know, Cap, I saw you in Roto. What's the YouTube channel? Roto Wire? Roto whatever, on Sunday morning before my stream went. I saw you ask some questions. How are you doing, my brother? Do you pick up Vidal or stream a defense? Well, defensive streamers suck. I don't think that you can play Vidal. You could pick him up in the off chance that J.K. Dobbins misses more time and everything. Yeah. Depending on what defenses are available, I would lean towards Vidal there. Hope that works out for you, Cap. And once again, Cap, it was nice seeing you out in the wild. I was like, I recognize those emojis. Arturo, who do you prefer having, JSN or DK? Having? I would still draft DK over JSN. I appreciate you, Cap. You're a nice gentleman. Yeah, I would still draft DK over JSN. And it's, even if JSN is better rest of season, it's still going to be tough convincing myself and I assume the public to draft him over DK next year. In full PPR, I think would be where the biggest argument would be to say you draft JSN in full PPR first, you draft DK in half PPR first, something like that. So half PPR Arturo is where I kind of work from. I'll take DK. It is getting close. It is definitely getting close, and it was very promising to see that even after DK came back, JSN still kind of kept a lot of that role that he had created, moved into while DK was gone. So that was a very promising week. I guess I want to see it one more time before I'm willing to maybe start to make that flip, maybe depending on matchup and everything too there. I think so. We get a lot of mediocre matchups here. To me, I think he's in very much the same situation as CeeDee Lamb. A lot of targets. They've said that they're gonna start to game plan, around Malik Neighbors. They obviously went into halftime and said, what the hell are we doing? How are we not, whoever was at fault, how are we not getting the ball to Malik Neighbors? And that changed in the second half big time after the game. A lot of people talked about it, but they said that, we're going to start to build a game plan around Malik Neighbors basically out loud. And I can't imagine like that should be what they're doing anyways. So I still think that he's pretty darn safe. I mean, look, he didn't get a single target for a whole half of the game, and he's still left with 9.5 points, and no touchdowns were included in that. I mean, that's not bad. You don't want 9.5 points from your wide receiver one, but the fact that your wide receiver one put up 9.5 points without a touchdown in one half of football is still pretty promising. Assuming that the norm is not to get ignored for a half of football. No targets, it's not his fault. It wasn't like he dropped, it wasn't like Quentin Johnston type thing, like he dropped 3 balls or anything like that. So part of it has to do with who are you going to say Cortland Sutton should 100% be ranked higher? Yeah, it's tough. It's I hear you. But I think once you get into, shucks, look at what Justin Jefferson did last week. But, these 6, I think, are for sure must-starts. But at the wide receiver position this year, it's pretty ugly. It's tough out there to be a wide receiver. It's the opposite of, the running backs. It's like every one of them on the screen right now, for the most part, you're pretty happy to put up into your lineup. A couple of them you're a little bit nervous. Basically, these 2 maybe you're a little bit nervous about. But outside of that, you're like, okay, yeah, I'll put them in. You're probably having to decide which one you have to sit for a lot of people right now. Metro, how is it going, my man? Yeah, so IP14, I hear you. I don't really know where to go with it. He and CeeDee Lamb are just above George Pickens basically for the higher, safer floor. George Pickens a little boomer bust still, but a good match up there, so I could definitely see him outscoring them. Hopefully this game is like that Jamar Chase game after he told the media he's always open, right? Metro, sorry for the kicker question, but with Soybert on IR, man, so many of us had him. And he was so close to having a big game if he could have just made some of those. I don't know that I want Moody this week against Buffalo, right? I'm not too hyped on that. I do like a few kickers though. I like Bass this week. I like going out and picking up Matthew Wright of Kansas City. They're signing him to replace their kicker situation going on there. So going up against Las Vegas, I like that a fair bit. And then let's see here, Tyler Bass and John Parker Romo against Arizona, Minnesota. I kind of like that one a little bit. Let's see here. You were asking me about who? Moody. Where the heck is he? Yeah, the experts got him all the way down at kicker 21 against Buffalo. It's just not a very nice matchup. Joshua Carty against New Orleans, I definitely think is a kicker that you could go with. That would be strong. I actually might have to think about that one a little bit more depending on how my waivers go with Bass and how much I want to trust Wright. I might, if I get Wright, I might switch that out for Joshua Carty after I think about it more. John Parker Romo, I'll have to look at. He hasn't missed one, I don't believe yet. I'd have to see how consistent Carty's been. I assume, actually, we can look at that right now. I feel like he's probably missed a couple. Yeah, last 2 weeks, he missed his only field goal attempt. Not a huge surprise that he only had one in each of those games. Makes all of his extra points, well, since week 8. Made 5 of 6. Missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5 field goals on the season. 3 of those over the past 3 weeks consecutively. So their trust in him might be waning. He still had a 19-point game against Miami just 3 weeks ago. It feels like that could be the type of game he has against New Orleans. So I do like that as a pop-off kind of guy, There's always the risk that he misses him, but there's also, I think, a high chance that he could have a really big game. There. I think that's kind of how I feel about the kickers. Also, is it time to panic on McLaurin? No Brown has now had 2 games where he out-targeted him. Oh no. I tend not to panic on guys who are wide receiver ones on the season too much, so I guess call me crazy. He has scored over 10 fantasy points every week except for one outside of the first 2 weeks of the season. So once that connection started to work out in week 3, this is, I don't know if this is full PPR or half PPR, probably full PPR, but 18, 14, 11, actually 18, 15, 11, 20, 13, 15, 15, 14, 1.5, 19, 6 targets this week. I mean, he's not a high target guy. It was nice while he was getting like 7+ targets for a little bit there from weeks 4 through 8, but no. Can't always expect that, but it could happen again too. I don't know, man. It's what are you gonna do about it? You know, even if you are gonna panic. Not gonna sit him for the most part. IP14, they lost because they made him play while he was still hurt. Now he's on IR. Right? Yeah, talk about bringing back a guy a little bit too early. Tom Davis. Hello, Tom. How are you doing this lovely day? Nice to see you around. Hope to see you around more. Do we start Pacheco before Brock Bowers? I believe so, yes. You've seen, tight ends suck. Brock Bowers has been absolutely fantastic and is quite possibly the most reliable tight end, but even that, you saw what that can get you. About the same as, I don't know, 8 runs from a running back. You don't if you think he's going to just outright, or if reports come that he's going to outright be splitting with Kareem Hunt, that he's going to be on a 10 count or a 10 whatever, he's going to be on a snap count, 15 snaps or something is what they're aiming for. If some sort of headline comes out like that, all right, now we're thinking a little differently about Pacheco. For now, I'm very bullish on Pacheco. I think he's healthy. I've broken a foot before too. I mean, it's kind of once you're back, it's not. I've broken a foot. I've broken every bone in a leg, all 3 of them, and I've also broken. I've also had soft meniscus damage. One of them was much easier to come back from. I was also about 20 years difference in the age between the 2 of them, but the broken bone. It's not too hard to come back from. It doesn't really impact your ability to cut and stuff like that. Once it's healed, it's healed, So you lose a little bit coming back, but once again, they've been ramping him up, so I think he'll be like ready for just workload-wise. I don't think they'll be holding him back. There's really no danger and putting him into a full workload like there is with like a soft tissue type of injury or coming back from an ACL thing where you're going to ramp him up. The bone's healed, so it's just going to take another broken bone it's going to take a lot of unluckiness for him to get re-injured immediately. Who else got Saquon this week? I had a viewer beat Saquon this week, and I have Saquon, and I also won IP14 probably. Is McLaughlin elite this week? Is McLaughlin the starter this week, IP? I sadly traded him away for James Conner and Mike Evans. Saquon for Conner and Evans? Oof. Last week that didn't work out. Bucks are not in a bad matchup. Yeah, I mean, probably. I just don't think he's available on too many waiver wires. So I probably just looked right past him. What do we got? Yeah, he's the number 5 kicker on the week going up against Carolina. I mean, yeah, he's a smash kicker. I don't know if you said that because I was going through kickers. Yes, he's elite this week. You know, obviously I just didn't say a few kickers' names because not anticipating them to be available, and if they were available, like, I think people would know to pick them up. Yeah, so I go Hunt myself. I mean, I go Pacheco myself. Once again, depending on the news as well, Tom. Appreciate the question. Metro, I had 2 go against Saquon last week and his week where he broke the 30 and 60 yarder this season. Yeah, the other big week that he had, like, it wasn't that long ago, like 4 weeks ago or something. 2 weeks ago, he had a dud week. Mike McCarthy is not going to throw away positive vibes after Jerry Jones says a contract extension isn't crazy. What is going on in Dallas? Did you guys hear that today? Like, Jerry Jones hinted at giving a contract extension to Mike McCarthy. I think he's actually not mentally, like, at a point where he should be running a team anymore. His decision making has not been the best over the past year. When was that other big week here? Saquon. Yeah, just week 9, 4 weeks ago. Well, heck, no, that was 2 weeks ago. He had the dud week. Just last week, he had 32 points. Over the past 4 weeks, he scored over 31 fantasy points 3 times. And on the season, he scored over 30 fantasy points. Well, over 31. 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 5 times. Absolute insanity. Over 25 points 5 times. Jerry's got a... Yeah, I don't know what it's about selling, but his... I assume he's got to have some staff, some board of directors or something. They got to do a full-blown takeover. What is that... What's the movie with the family? The HBO show with the family. Succession. They gotta get the succession plan going. Any of you guys ever watch Succession? T. Higgins, high key top 10. Yeah, man. I wanted to get him higher. He's in a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, but I don't know how much that impacts him. He's been good all year when he's been healthy. I'm waiting for, that to not be the case, but that has been the case. I was thinking about getting him even higher. I definitely got him, as quickly as high as I could in the rankings. Saquon has been superly absurd, and that's why he was my RB3 when he was everybody else's RB, I don't know, 6, 7, something stupid. I was like, he's gonna go off this year. If Bryan and Eckler don't play, is the third string worth a pickup? It's a tough matchup this week, but he still has the receiving upside there. You're talking about Jeremy McNichols, so you can see where I have him ranked. It's tough. I might get him ahead of Jaylen Warren here. This is still a little subjective, but if your opponent is thin at running backs, go look at the schedule. He would be worth blocking an opponent from getting him if you've got something extra that you can drop for that, Rit. And if you're desperate at running back, I have a team where my running back is Travis Etienne, my RB2. I put claims in for Gus Edwards and or Jeremy McNichols just for that option. So as I think about it throughout the week, if I change my mind on the rankings here, at least I have him. Or if Tank Bigsby comes back. Tank Bigsby is healthy. Etienne will probably drop below Jeremy. Also, who would you start this Thursday? All right, we'll see. Okay. Hold up. I would have never traded him away if I knew he was going to go crazy like this on Tom. Yeah, it's been something else. He's feeling it right now. I have Hunt, and I'm worried about starting him this week. You cannot start Hunt this week, I don't think, personally. Currently, I'm not ranking Hunt. I'm waiting on more news about Pacheco, but as I explained earlier, I really don't have any concern about Pacheco. Broken bones heal, and then they're good. So I don't. They've been ramping him up for a while, and just not too concerned about the situation until I hear reason to be concerned about his usage. So I'm pretty much expecting Pacheco to come back into his role, and I really won't be surprised if one of those running backs, goes down onto practice squad. I don't know who they all can move down there, but I don't expect them to keep 4 running backs going. Maybe they will. I don't know. Anything he does better against Pittsburgh because Chase will be doubled. Why is that any different with Pittsburgh than any other team? Why would Pittsburgh double Chase more than any other team? Also, who would you start this Thursday? So I'm not too sure how to answer that question, Written Nui. Is there more to that? Who would I start this Thursday? There's 4 teams playing. And who I would start would depend on who I have on my team compared to who else I have on my team. So I don't really know where to take that, Written Nui. Having 2 wide receiver ones is not fair. Having 2 wide receiver ones is the way to go. Frizz, how's it going, Frizzy? Nice to see you. Go get Alexander Madison. I don't know that Alexander Madison's going to be playing. He got twisted his ankle just last week. If he comes back, he'll be a better play. But I currently think that Alexander Madison most likely will continue to miss 1 more week. We'll see what the news is like, though. But most ankle injuries require more than 1 week before guys come back. Not all. Not all. And we didn't really get a good idea of how severe that was from the news that I heard on him, so I just don't know on him. Yeah, if somebody's already got McNichols, Alexander Madison, you could grab, though, just for the heck of it. Or you could grab Gus Edwards, or you could grab... who else did I have on my... One more running back. Amir Abdullah, if he's still available. Personally, I would currently have Amir Abdullah instead of Madison myself. Also, I'd like to formally apologize to everyone I told to start Downs over Abdullah. I made a serious mistake. I mean, Downs got injured. You can't really hold yourself accountable for an injury happening. So, Metro, I think people will be fine accepting that apology. Michael Burgos. Too high on Pacheco. He had a horrible injury. He broke a leg. Once they're fixed, they're fixed. I've done it to every bone in my leg. I feel pretty confident on that part of it. He has to get back into football shape. He's had like a few weeks of that. That is obviously, it's not a guarantee. I mean, I know I'm saying this like it's for sure thing. But like I said, I know I'm bullish on him. I think they want to save him for the playoffs, so they will use him wisely. That's possible. I'm interested to see who they keep on their roster this week in terms of their running backs. Will they keep all 4? Will they kick somebody to the curb? Put somebody down on the practice squad? Be interesting. I feel like it would make the most sense to put Kareem Hunt down into the practice squad. But that's another piece of that puzzle. It's a good matchup against Las Vegas. I like it a lot, so I'm not too worried about him. I didn't show you my flex for that question. Oh, okay. Here we go. Between Jameson, Worthy, Roma Dunze, Taysom Hill, and Tillman. Jameson, Worthy, Roma Dunze, Taysom Hill. So I think Jameson, yeah, not in the best of matchups. Same with Tillman. Where did Rome end up? I low-key like Rome this week. He did get a lot of targets last week. But, you know, just based on what he's done on the season, it's one of those gut calls if you want to play Rome. Otherwise, and where are you, Worthy? I got Worthy right behind him. So I think it's Taysom Hill. As weird as that is. Otherwise, it's Roma Dunze. I don't really know exactly where I'll end up with those guys in my flex. So you come back another day maybe once I've got my rankings more settled. But I go Rome there. 2 or 3 of those guys. Taysom greater than Rome, greater than Worthy, greater than JMO, greater than Tillman. No. Taysom greater than JMO, greater than Tillman, greater than Rome, greater than Worthy is actually how I have them projected, ranked. All right, yeah. So JMO still thinking that he could get the big play against Chicago, and they definitely might go for it. Cedric still thinking that he'll get targeted against Denver, and hopefully things work out better. That's if he comes back from his concussion. Don't know if he will. Rome, it's a good matchup. It's not a high ceiling matchup because Detroit doesn't really allow touchdowns to wide receivers, but they do allow yards, you know. So Rome's seen targets. He hasn't done a whole lot with his targets, but they have been there as that team continues to improve and is in a, not a bad matchup against Detroit. I do like the upside to that. And Worthy, it's been nice. I mean, he's been getting more than 4 targets a game as of late, so you could always take a chance on that. But Las Vegas always plays Kansas City hard, so if you're going to take a chance on somebody, I would not take a chance on Xavier Worthy. I'd take a chance on Jameson or Cedric Tillman. I would probably take Keenan Allen ahead of require dropping Xavier Worthy, probably. I don't know. You've already got Roma Dunze. I saw Keenan Allen was available on my waiver wire last week. I wanted to pick him up, but I've got Rome. I was like, I can't keep them both. So, Tom Davis, Abdullah was a dice roll. Well, that's weird. I predicted him exactly as what he did. So, I got that dice roll nailed. Yeah, it's no different, which is good for him. I think he puts up 15 plus. Dylan, how's it going, Dylan? Preparing for a week 14 bye. No Lamar. Need to grab a quarterback in advance. Darnold is going up against Atlanta. Carr is going up against the New York Giants. Levis is going up against Jacksonville. I think I just take Darnold against Atlanta. I assume, depending on, I don't know. A lot would have to happen this week, most likely. I feel like the only thing that could happen this week to change how I most likely will end up having them ranked is that Darnold would have to get injured. So I think there's about a 90, let's say there's a 90% chance I'm going to have Darnold leading that group as the best option, unless he throws maybe 5 picks this week and Carr once again goes off, and then he has Chris Olave coming back. Levis going off against Jacksonville, I don't think is going to change my opinion on him too much. Or Levis going off this week, who would he be going up against? Wouldn't be Jacksonville. Washington. it's not going to get him all the way up there. I'll leave my quarterback rankings up for a little while. All right. Lost my last up since Murray, Mixon, Flowers, Ott, and all decided, ouch, have their own bye week. Well, that's a nice way to put it, isn't it, Frizz? Metro. Yeah, Tom, there was a. Abdullah was almost guaranteed to get 6-7 targets in that game, 5-6 catches. That was pretty much a guarantee in that game, which is why I liked his floor. Was surprised he got a touchdown. That was a very nice little surprise. But it was a nice matchup, nicer than this week for him. I meant 2 wide receivers on the same team, but that's a good receiving core. Metro. I got Cardinals defense, but not sure if I should drop for Cowboys defense. Cardinals have a juicy playoff schedule. I don't think you should drop them for the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys, everybody loving that. Yeah, New York Giants. Yeah, I know. And they actually did kind of decent last week. Well, more than kind of decent. They actually did good, but rest of the season, man, they've been bad. Except for week 1. Man, I don't know. Let's see here. Yeah, if you want to go out to win the week, yeah, Arizona versus Minnesota, because I know I'm like not using Arizona after having used them last week. Yeah, it's not a good matchup. If you want to have a better chance at winning the week, you should do it. I don't know that Arizona's defense is something that you need to hold on to anyways, to be fair. Yeah, Rams wide receiver core is sick. Forge, we are tanking. That man is getting paid to not play. What man's getting paid to not play? I don't think you have anybody that would help your team, Tom, except for on defense. I don't remember talking about any defense. Who's getting paid not to play, Tom? I think Bengals got the best. Jamar and T are good. Yes, they are. Very good. All right. Appreciate you, Rit. Should I pick up Keenan Allen? Yeah, instead of Rome. I don't know. In terms of instead of Rome, I suppose probably, technically, yes, you should. I have no clue who my loves and fades this week would be. I really don't know. Let's see. We can run through the running backs. I would probably say I love Pacheco, just in terms of talking about that to talk about it. And because currently he's not being ranked really high, I don't know where the experts are going to land on that. So I probably just get that one out of the way. I mean, Bucky's pretty much an easy love of the week that I might be able to go because he's still ranked so low, and you almost have to rank him low. Jonathan Taylor would be a thought. Christian McCaffrey, I would probably just throw out a reminder out there that I was concerned about him last week, didn't love him. And was not surprised that he had a bad game there. But if they get their quarterback, Buffalo's a much better matchup. If they get their quarterback back, I'll be much more willing to play him this week. So something like that for my loves, fades. Oh, it's tough to fade too many running backs this week. I think you got to go down to like James Conner would be a fade. And Probably DeAndre Swift would be a fade. Just kind of obvious, easy fades, but yeah, they would be. Rico Dowdle is somebody I could kind of say that I love this week, just in terms of, if you're weaker at running back and you're, between the Dowdle, Gus Edwards, Jeremy McNichols, you're thinking of grabbing one of those guys, I would say just stick with Dowdle this week against the New York Giants. Good chance that he'll have a big week. So that'd be the running backs. Quarterbacks here. Let me just check out chat for a little bit. See if Tom answered who. Why did Debo drop so much? What do you mean? Why did Debo drop so much? I mean, that's about. He's 36 this week. Well, let's see. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had him around in the 20s. I didn't like it, but he had still deserved it from his early play on the season. But ever since he got banged up and injured, it's been really, really bad. And there's just enough guys who are in like okay-ish matchups and stuff this week through these wide receiver 30s that he's kind of in this group for me. And for now, that's where I landed because Buffalo is a really tough matchup. Part of it also just a little bit of concern for the quarterback, even if he does play with his shoulder injury. I'm not 100% on that. So a little bit of risk baked in that I figured I'd rather take the risk on Jaden Reed. I actually really like. Here's a love candidate, Tank Dell against Jacksonville. Tank Dell really good at beating man-to-man. Jacksonville plays a lot of man-to-man, so there's a one that I really love. Jameson Williams, Cedric Tillman have been absolutely, have been quite fantastic for generally speaking. Jameson obviously boom or bust, but he's boomed a lot more than Deebo Samuel has, so that's where those guys just kind of are hanging up there. So to me, the only one that I think you could I wouldn't argue if you wanted to say, well, that's stupid to do, is to have Deebo behind Cedric Tillman. It's fine if you want to say that. I'm just going based off of how Cedric's done with his quarterback, and they've been great duo. Start Jameson Williams over Tank or Deebo. Oh, so talk about fades. Jameson Williams, Cedric Tillman would probably both be on my fade list. Where do I have Debo ranked? Okay, so you were able to see those at that time, at least, Thomas Davis. At your own risk, start him over Tank and Debo. I don't know. I will probably get these guys. Well, I'll probably get Jameson Williams ranked a little bit lower, but it's just tough. He's been so good this season. All right, so I gave you a couple fades there, a love for the wide receivers. So we'll get back to those wide receiver fades and loves in a little bit. Waivers are dead. Yeah, it's just, waivers have been largely dead this season. It has not been a great waiver wire season. A lot of early season injuries, but after those first 4 weeks, hasn't been a whole lot of injuries. Now, I've had a lot of injuries since week 4 personally, but not a lot. I lost one of my matchups by 0.02. Bro, that sucks. What kind of world are we living is the real question with that one. Dude, sorry to hear that. That's tough. Metro, I wasn't even close. Damien, how is it going? Damien, can I hear your thoughts on Tracy's outlook after last week's game? I'm thinking of riding him out until the playoffs. He's just on a bad offense, so he's just a little bit risky of a play. He's a little bit boom or bust because of that. And anytime that the matchup is really tough, you think that, it's possibly a week that he won't do so well. Anytime that the matchup is good, you think, yeah, this is a week he could do well. But because he's on a very poor offense that's, pretty much thrown in the towel. Not that all the players have thrown in the towel, but, enough injuries, lack of talent, etc. are currently just the scenario that they're in New York. So, yeah, it's asking a lot of a guy who's literally in his second year being a running back. And now teams, saw him and said, oh gosh, we can't let this guy just kill us. He truly is pretty good. And so, teams do game plan a little bit for him at least. Dallas has been decent against the run. I guess I got to look at his rest of season schedule. So New Orleans next week, Dallas this week. I think Dallas has been on the upbeat. On the season, they're still a good matchup, but not too long ago, they were an extremely good matchup, and slowly they're becoming a worse matchup. Now they're at being an above average, borderline to good matchup on this season, but they got better at stopping the run. Of course, now without their quarterback, they're probably, even if they were better, that's they're gonna be no better than average, I'm sure. Baltimore, Atlanta, Indianapolis. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect much from him against Baltimore. Unless they just game plan him as a receiving back, a bunch of receptions, but I don't think Baltimore's allowed a lot of that. I don't recall. I mean, he just feels like a back end kind of what I've got him here. It's a really good running back year, so other years he might be a mid to higher end RB2 rest of season, but I would put him as a back end RB2 rest of season because of the situation that he's in, and I don't think that's an overly fantastic schedule rest of season. So he's still a good play, Damian, but he's not, the best play. I mean, he's ahead of James Conner this week. That ain't bad. Ahead of Tony Pollard, who just went off. Tracy, a pretty safe ride, but you want insurance in case of a bad matchup. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Metro, heading out for the night. Nice to see you as always, Metro. Have a good one. Appreciate you stopping on through. Great list breakdown. Appreciate you, Cat. You're the man. Damien, I have him in my flex currently. Should I start Devonta Smith over him? I'm not even ranking Devonta Smith right now. He got a hamstring injury midweek last week. I'm gonna trust that. I'm expecting Devonta Smith to miss at least one more week. No thanks, Damien. I'll let you in on a little secret. Something that's been going on all year. The top, let's see what it is this week. But the top, let's just, for goodness sake, say the top 20 running backs roughly are usually ranked higher than by the time that you get to the wide receiver 10. So take whatever those top 10-ish wide receivers are and just assume, not for all of them, of course, but that you'll be able to fit about 20 running backs before you get to that wide receiver 11-ish range. And that's been something that in my flex rankings has been like that pretty much all year. Most weeks, there's been a couple of weeks where just because of matchups and everything, it's been a little bit different than that. But it's been a good running back year, not a good wide receiver year, and they've just been much more reliable. So, yeah, when you're talking about a guy who's Smith, running back 16 or something, and you're talking about a wide receiver 16, 17, kind of a best case scenario, and talking about a wide receiver that's around running back 20, probably lean towards the running back. This week, the experts have Tyreek Hill just a spot ahead of Tyrone Tracy, who they have one running back lower on their list than myself. And, yeah, I don't know. That feels about right, but I don't know if that's the order that I would have them in. That's a little bit tough there. I would suspect I might have Tracy ahead of Tyreek Hill. Kind of low on Chase Brown. I am compared to the experts. I I don't feel like I really am. On the season, Chase Brown has been the running back 26. That's not on the season. That is um, while he's been the starter. And I'm gonna go and verify that I manipulated that correctly. But based on my consistency rankings, that's where I have him as the running back 26 as a starter. So I think people have a view that he's been like this top 10 running back, and he hasn't quite been that. He's been great. Had a few good big weeks. I love him. I recommended everybody draft him. I predicted he would be the starting running back by like week 6 or 7 or whatever in the season, and that's basically what happened. Why won't you let me go into Google Docs normally? Why do I always have to fight with you? There we go. Oh. All right. Okay, so that is not true. I did leave in his first few weeks, although that's really only. Let me verify this. 2 weeks of poorness. Um, so it's been a little bit better than that since taking over the backfield. I can't get him over Bucky Irving going up against Carolina. You know, I can't. I love Pacheco going up against Las Vegas. Pittsburgh, it's a slightly tough running back matchup. They've actually been pretty decent against him. And they do not allow, let me verify this one too. Oh, what the heck? Running backs. Pittsburgh does not allow a whole lot of receiving work to running backs. Oh, it's about average. Oh, why do you... That's annoying. A button I usually use on my mouse on this browser does something totally different on a different browser. Yeah, so believe me, I want to put Chase higher. I just don't. I can't really justify it. There's a lot of really good running back matchups after. I mean, just generally up here, there's only one bad one, or two bad ones: Ken Walker and Bijan Robinson. Oh, and Saquon Barkley. I mean, how low are you going to get those guys ultimately based on what they've done this year? So it's tough. I still like him a lot. He's on fire last 4 weeks before the bye. PPR gold. Yeah, and this is half PPR. PPR, I would definitely have him ahead of Isaiah Pacheco. Once again, I don't know that I'll have him any higher. I mean, Aaron Jones and Chase Brown, I could definitely argue between those two. But then again, I still have Aaron ahead of Bucky. I don't know, maybe I get Bucky up higher and Aaron Jones down a little bit lower. I'll keep that in mind. It was already on my mind, but I'll do my best, and I will actually go through and change my consistency rankings just so I can. I'll just look at it only for the time period where he's been the lead dog, and I'll see how much that changes. Because it will change it from 26. He's been great. Glad that you've been able to get him. He's my boy, dude. I love Chase Brown. We have a ranking of waiver wire pickup. Michael, it's all dog shit. Yep, It's all dog shit. So here, Michael, we're gonna start out by looking at the best two. Gus Edwards and Jeremy McNichols, my RB31 and RB33. Those are your best two waiver wire options this week overall. And, Jeremy McNichol, neither one of them is a guarantee that they're going to be, the starters once it comes to game time. Quarterbacks, I've got Russell Wilson, Caleb Williams, Matt Stafford is kind of my streaming quarterbacks of the week, / Russell Wilson, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philadelphia over the next 3 weeks. You can always go up on the website and see this same thing that I'm looking at here on the screen. Detroit, San Fran, Minnesota for Caleb Williams. So some high upside, but also riskiest matchups. But Caleb Williams just, this last week killed Minnesota. It did well fantasy-wise. Matt Stafford going up against New Orleans this week, I think offers some nice potential upside, unless, of course, they just crush them. But, New Orleans has found ways to move the ball against teams. Amir Abdullah is my next option there, my RB35, going up against Kansas City. They've been geniuses against the run, and for Amir Abdullah, Alexander Madison, Zamir White, don't know where their health is at. I'm expecting them each to miss a week again, but far from a guarantee. Wide receivers is nothing really different. Dontavian Wicks, I don't have him very highly ranked, but he's going to break into the receiving room probably with Romeo Doubs' injury. Nothing's really changed at tight end there. Will Disley, Jonnu, Jatavian is probably missing this week. I don't know yet. There's a neck injury, but he got released from the hospital immediately and everything, so it might just be nothing. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Buffalo Bills. I could only come up with 2 DST streamers because they're so crappy. What kind of world are we living in? Different rankings and what you're looking at in terms of whatever his ranking is on the season. You don't think that they'll have to use Pacheco against Las Vegas? I mean, Las Vegas usually gives them a game, but I don't know. Kansas City's been pretty heavily using a running back this season. It's cool. What kind of world? You don't have to. I won't force you. 7, 11, 5 targets in the last 3. Is that 5 touchdowns? 11 targets, 7 catches? I don't. What's your 7, 11, 5? Yeah, so Michael, sorry, bud. Not that great of a waiver wire pickup. Michael, and what kind of world? Your profile pictures are a little too similar, even though they're totally different. They're both dark. If you could change that for me, that'd be great. No, I was trying to keep you two apart there. Make sure I'm following the conversation correctly of who's who there. I have him currently in my flex. Should I start Devonta Smith? Okay, we went over that. So, all right, we know you all want different things for Chase Brown and Pacheco. I'll do what I can. What about Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor? Are we worried about them more, even though they're in better matchups this week? Are we good there? Are we good with over Breece Hall, Chuba, Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving, who've all been, well, Chuba and Bucky especially, who've been killing it? What about Ken Walker? Should we get him lowered? He's in a tough matchup against the New York Jets, apparently. Seattle, didn't do a whole lot last week against Arizona. Ken's had a good season, but he's had a very heavily touchdown-reliant season. Big-time boomer bust guy. Should he be a little bit lower? So tough with what he's done on the season. That's definitely one point of contention for me. Let me know what you guys think on Ken Walker. Gino or Tua this week? I still don't remember who teams are playing generally to help with these. Where the heck are you, Gino? I think I have Gino really low. Tua not too much higher. Tua cold weather game, bust chance. Geno Smith going up against the New York Jets. Obviously, a lot of talent on that defense. They haven't played fantastically for a little while now, so there's some upside to that. Green Bay, it's not going to be freezing cold. Well, it's going to be just barely freezing cold. I think the high is 31 or something like that is the expectation. What time of day is that game? So it's a night game. So the high being 31 should mean that it's not going to get like a whole lot colder than that. I mean, it might drop. It depends. It really depends at that point. If there's a cold front coming along, a warm front, if that's just the temperature. The sun will have been down for like 5 hours, you know? So I assume that's just kind of going to be the temperature. It's just going to be borderline freezing. For a team like Miami, that is a cold weather game, and they've have not done well in cold weather games. But they got Jonnu Smith going. That helps a little bit. It's more of a cold weather guy than the pure speed that they've always been utilizing. So maybe that'll give them a little bit of meat, a little beef. They've changed a little bit. I don't think they've been playing like the racetrack team that they were last year quite. So they might hold up to the weather a little bit better. Quarterback streamers for the Wild Buy Massacre next week to pick up now. Well, I had thought Russell Wilson this week and next week very usable. Cleveland, they have not been great against pass. Caleb Williams against San Francisco is meh. San Francisco's just kind of been average. Sandwiched by two high upside matchups, Detroit, Minnesota. Matt Stafford I do not like next week, or maybe he's on bye. I don't know. I don't know who's all on bye next week. Baltimore, Denver, Houston, Indianapolis, New England, Washington. Wow. So glad none of that affects me. Except for Washington. But, so, league I'm in, their playoffs start week 14. And I've been wanting them to change it because bye weeks happen on week 14 and that's just not fair. And maybe they'll finally care with some big names in week 14, like the team without Lamar Jackson. I bet you we'll see some change next year. So, let me pull up my quarterbacks list. I don't know. Is Bo Nix still available in a lot of leagues? Oh, he's on bye. Like I said, Russell Wilson might be leading that list. Trevor Lawrence. Who's Jacksonville playing? I don't know. Why don't I do this? All right, Green Bay, Detroit. I assume neither one of them are available. Jacksonville, Tennessee. Divisional game. Tennessee Titans have not been a good matchup, but it's not necessarily purely a talent thing. So you could take a chance on Trevor Lawrence if the waiver wire is thin. Miami, New York Jets. It's in Miami. So with how the New York Jets defense has been playing, you could definitely take a chance on Miami. Right now, they're 6.5-point favorites. With a fairly normal over-under at 44.5. So Miami wouldn't be bad. Tua wouldn't be bad. It just, it won't feel right going up against New York Jets. Minnesota, so going up against Atlanta, that's a really good one. Um, what's his name there in Minnesota? New Orleans Saints, New York, Derek Carr. If you want to trust him, up to you. He did well last week in a good matchup. He's got another good matchup this week. He's somebody I highlighted a while ago in terms of somebody who's helped take you through a bunch of bye weeks. So, yeah, I trust him to a certain point if he gets Olave back. Otherwise, it seems like Taysom's a little too involved, though. Definitely don't want to go Bryce Young against Philly. Definitely don't want to go Jameis Winston against Pittsburgh again. Nope. Well, you want to go Aiden O'Connell against Tampa Bay? That's a decent matchup. Wouldn't do that. Geno Smith, Arizona. I mean, we just saw that. It was a tight game. Not extremely high scoring. Pretty average type of output, if not below average, for Geno there. Chicago, San Fran. Once again, Caleb Williams. Decent. Buffalo, LA. Buffalo's been a pretty good defense. But, I mean, you can always play Matt Stafford. And obviously that's probably going to be the highest expected scoring game of the week. So you want to just take a shot for outside of Green Bay and Detroit. So if you want to take a shot for it, oh, yeah. I mean, if Goff is available, Detroit, that's an option. Stafford, if you want to take a shot at it, I'd say he's a little boomer bust once again because of Buffalo Bills defense. They might run the ball a lot. Are these all week 14 games? Okay. Chargers, Kansas City. Justin's available for Chargers. That's not terror. Well, that's pretty rough, actually. That's it. Darnold. That's the name. I'm not worried about Taylor, but probably can't have him lower. He's like the only running back with 100% of the backfield. I think I had him lower last week. I know I had a bust tag on him last week. I can put him lower. I'm not afraid to get bold. But I don't want to this week. I think New England, should be a good Jonathan Taylor week. You are very welcome for running through that. Hopefully, got an option. Who are you gonna go with? You know your waiver wire. Did you find someone out of that you liked? All right. Lower rankings. Let's see here for the running back. What do you think? I was asking earlier. Should I have Gus Edwards ahead of DeAndre Swift? I just can't quite get there, but I do think very similarly of Najee and Gus. So it's just tough. I've got Najee ahead of DeAndre Swift. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but at the same time, I think very similarly of Najee and Gus, and I'd almost want Gus over Najee to some reasons of logic. And yet, I really struggle with getting Gus ahead of DeAndre Swift because DeAndre Swift brings receiving upside, receiving value for half PPR. Remember, we're speaking here. I hate it when it's like that, where it's like, well, I kind of would play Gus over Najee, but then when I look at the 3 or 4 names in between there, I really don't know that I would play him over those names, but I can't lower this guy down. Jets wide receivers rest of season. Yeah, I mean, they might sit him, right? I don't know. They don't seem to know what they want to do. I don't know. Well, I mean, obviously, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, I think less of them. So they'll take a hit in the rankings if they end up sitting Rodgers. I don't know. Regardless of what you think of it, I don't think it matters unless you still have a trade window. In which case, I mean, yeah, I would trade him for a value, whatever. Sell him low, or yeah, I'd sell him low. I don't know how low. Who's the backup there? Is it hold on. Get this thing up on screen. Oh. Say hello. Say hello to the microphone. Okay. What am I looking for? The depth chart of some team. Who was I just talking about? Aaron Rodgers. New York Jets. They, for some reason, got rid of their investment quarterback. I still don't understand why they just went up and got rid of what's his name? The MILF eater. Oh, it is Tyrod Taylor. Okay, I didn't know that they actually had him. I thought he might be a free agent with that news surrounding them, thinking about sitting him. So, I mean, Tyrod's decent. So he holds up some of their value. I don't know. Maybe they both drop like 6 or 7 spots at least. At least in a rest of season ranking. It depends exactly where you have them to begin with. Armin, how is it going? Hello to you. You are second on waivers. Should you drop Abdullah, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, or Disley for McNichols? Well, I mean, I've got Abdullah and McNichols pretty closely ranked, but I do have McNichols ahead of Amir Abdullah. And I would say at this point, it would seem that McNichols probably has a slightly higher chance of, neither Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler coming back, but I don't know enough for sure to say. Currently, I'm not expecting. Yeah, I'm expecting them both to continue to be starters. I'm not expecting Zamir White or Madison to be back either. But I also don't know how severe their injuries are, so I'm not sure on that. Nick's been on a tear. I don't really care to keep Nick. I mean, it depends on the rest of your roster, Armin. But I have no problem just swapping out Abdullah for them. The only thing about keeping Abdullah is, if I recall from doing my waivers last week, I think Las Vegas... No, it would be another week. So next week... Wait. Never mind. Next week, Las Vegas has Tampa Bay. They've been a pretty good pretty good defense to target against the run. It's a pretty good matchup for Abdullah. If we, that's thinking ahead. So if you're not going to use Disley, if you're not going to be using Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, I have no problem dropping either of them. I don't think either one of them is special. And then you can hold on to Abdullah if your running back room's a little bit thin, which it might be if you had to pick him up last week. And then roll with McNichols this week. And just see if, those injuries linger there in Las Vegas. Because once again, if they do, Tampa Bay, I'll have Amir Abdullah ranked a little bit higher again next week than than we do this week at 35. Or drop Buffalo DST for Cowboys against an injured DeVito. I think I would rather hold on to Buffalo DST. Just because they're good defense. I mean, to be honest, if you wanted to just, if you're in it, you're fighting tooth and nail here. I would, if you're willing to drop Disley, that must mean you have another tight end. So I would just, let's just say you do have a good tight end. And you're not thinking about, I mean, this is a good week for Disley, so you must have a decent tight end. So I would just drop, let's say, Disley for the Cowboys DST. Play the Cowboys DST this week. Keep the Buffalo DST, though, because they're a good defense. And then drop Abdullah. Or if we're thinking ahead here another week, possibly, drop Nick Westbrook-Ikhine if you're not going to be using him. And pick up McNichols. That's probably about what I would do, Armin, if I was in your shoes. Something like that. If you're not fighting tooth and nail, if you're probably going to make the playoffs anyways, yeah, 80, 90% chance. I mean, I don't think Buffalo's defense is necessarily bad this week, and they're a really good defense anyways, so they could always do well. San Fran, you know, they might be playing a backup quarterback there as well, who just didn't do too well against Green Bay. So it's far from a guarantee, honestly, that Dallas is even going to be... I would rather play Buffalo against the backup in San Francisco than Dallas against Tommy DeVito. Let's just put it like that. So there's a chance that I like Buffalo more than Dallas anyways. But for now, we're planning San Fran having Brock Purdy. Let's take a chance at getting the Cowboys on the roster. You know, it sucks that you got to use a second waiver wire claim on a guy like McNichols here or something. You don't have to use your waiver. If you don't need to, you don't have to use your waiver wire. And maybe something pops up next week that's more important. That's also an option here. Because I only have Abdullah like 2 spots behind McNichols. And like I said, I mean, there's a chance that I would rather the Buffalo defense over Cowboys anyways by the end of the week. We'll see. Buffalo defense is juicy for week 16, 17, and maybe this week it pretty sits. Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate your input there. Yahweh Free Breezy, yo, how is it going, my brother? I hope you're having a good night. JSN for Neighbors trade. You getting JSN or you getting Neighbors? I mean, currently I've still got Neighbors ranked ahead of JSN. That could change very quickly, though. So, you're giving up JSN, you get Neighbors. I mean, currently I would say I would take that, yes. I don't know that that'll work out rest of the season. I don't know that that's some juju that I really want to mess with. I might just say, you know what, I've got JSN, I'm not messing with this. Yes, I would do it, I guess. I would be nervous that I made the wrong decision. But I would do it. Yep, they do have a good playoff schedule. Just obviously a terrible quarterback. But, you know, he put up 9.5 fantasy points, half PPR in one half after they didn't get targeted for a whole half. The first half of Danny DeVito, you know, whatever happened. They clearly fixed it at halftime. They've said after the game that the plan is to fix that going forward and that Neighbors will be the focus of the passing attack. I don't doubt that. I mean, he should have been already. I don't know why he wouldn't have been. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to like Neighbors. There's also, you know, it's definitely a worse quarterback situation. Touchdown upside, less so. But good matchups can help to offset that a little bit too, possibly. Hopefully. Thought last week was a decent matchup for them. For Tommy to come out and be okay. Was not the case. Alright, so we've covered my running backs. Let's hop on out and look at what kind of world anybody else looking for some opinions on the wide receiver rankings, running back on the rankings in general. Hearing them more than actually making changes right now. Some of them though are things that I was already thinking about looking at and will be looking at further and closer. And you know, the fact that you guys have said something will weigh on my mind when it comes to making those changes. And And I think I've made maybe one change or two as well anyways. So with my wide receivers, we got, nothing. We're not going to mess with anything up here. It doesn't matter really what order these top 6 are in. Everybody's starting them. Everybody's starting these 2. Well, Amon-Ra at least 2. And I don't think anybody's going to move me off putting CD and Malik up here. They're just, the targets are too good there for them. T I love. I think this is still a very strong tier here through 15. And then we got some tough matchups for some guys that we really like. Terry McLaurin, DK, Jackson Smith, Tyreek Hill. Probably in a good matchup. Should Tyreek Hill be higher? Am I a little too low on Tyreek Hill, guys? And if so, I mean, what are we thinking? Should he be... it wasn't great last week. He's banged up. It's tough. Am I too high on him? Which is it, if either? Yeah, and it's the cold weather game 2 narrative. That's not going to help. That's not going to help a bad hurt wrist either. I think it was maybe a little bit telling last week that they just decided to... I mean, who knows if it was telling or not, but it's potentially telling last week that they just decided to make a game plan for Jalen Waddle again. So then we got Ladd, Devontae, Juwan Jennings. This is considering it being with Brock Purdy. Without, obviously, he'll go lower. But Buffalo's a really, really tough matchup, so it offers a little bit of pop upside potentially. But it's tough. So the next tier, I've got Zay Flowers, Brian Thomas Jr., who I did move up. That was one of the big move ups that I made. I had him lower on this chart, but I'm currently ranking Trevor Lawrence as if he's starting. So it's a solid matchup there. If you didn't catch it, I have these color coded here as to really strong matchups, good matchups, above average matchups to average, below average, etc. Calvin Ridley, Khalil Shakir's been getting like a minimum of 6-7 targets for like 5-6 weeks in a row now. DJ Moore, obviously, I think like maybe we've hit an area where we can trust the floor for DJ Moore, it would appear, possibly. DeAndre against Las Vegas, once again, I like that. Marvin Harrison, Minnesota, a lot of upside there. Should we have Marvin Harrison higher? He's been largely a disappointment. Well, given where people drafted him, he's been a disappointment, but he's been a little on and off. Do you think he will actually has a hurt wrist, or is he overplaying it to make an excuse for his bad stats this year? He low-key seems like the type of person to do that. Well, he apparently did get jealous and mad at that female athlete at his house that he broke her leg. Like, apparently he charged her out of anger, like lost his anger. Which would make sense with, a couple other things that we know about his at-home behavior. Hopefully something that he's working on. I root for him. I mean, he seems genuinely like he wants to be a good guy, but he has some temper issues that he's got to work on. And I'm sure grew up in a household where, that's just how it goes. The cycle of abuse. So... I don't know. Yes, because I think he's gonna have surgery on it. So I guess yes, because it just seems like I don't know that they'd be talking about the surgery and everything if he was making it up. Obviously, I mean, you could make all of that up and then not get the surgery. Just let the story disappear, and if it ever gets brought up, just say, well, didn't end up needing to get surgery. It got better, whatever, decided not to get the surgery. But it seems like the reporting is like he's going to get the surgery. It's just that he's going to wait till after the season. I think he's a competitor. I think he likes to be out there. So overplaying it, I don't know. I don't know about that. That's, I would say, possible for the overplay. But I do think that he has a bad wrist. I think he... overplayed the fact that it was the cops that, I mean, they did mishandle him a little bit, and he did say it in the video, like at the time. He's like, yo, that's you know, I have a bad wrist or whatever the heck. So there's another reason to believe it, like just off the cuff he said that when the cops manhandled him. um he didn't necessarily go ow at the time. uh I do think maybe he's overplayed that to maybe build a case or help with his case against him or whatnot, something like that. Maybe I play Sutton and Mike Evans over Wilson. I could see that. You think my ranking should reflect that? Just because I can't trust the Jets anymore. For as long as it's, you know, Aaron, I mean, he gets a lot of targets. So does Sutton. Mike Evans, not so much, but it's Carolina, so, you know, there's some good there. I don't know. Maybe Tyreek is a crazy man. Wow. He's probably a crazy man. I would not play Mike Evans over Garrett Wilson. You know, I think if you felt more comfortable with Cortland Sutton over Garrett, I wouldn't argue against that. I don't have both of them, so I wouldn't really know how to compare them. I do think people have oftentimes freaked out about Garrett Wilson this year. He's had really good target shares, a lot of good games. Just, you know, hasn't quite had the pop that you drafted him for, but especially in a year of bad receivers, you know, he's been absolutely fine. And for a long time, people were just trying to sell him low and everything. And it's like, dude, like, he's okay. Not bad. Do I think I should flex Bucky over Hill and JSN? Yeah, probably. I was talking about that earlier. Generally this year, if there's a top 20, 21 in a week like this, 22 running back, generally only the top like 10 wide receivers will be ranked within like the top 20 running backs. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio early on in the going. So running backs dominate flex rankings this year. So yes, I really, really like Bucky. I think he's a super safe play with a super high floor as well. I would play him over a lot of receivers. I would play him over... Man, I mean, am I going to have... I mean, there's a chance that I'm going to only have like 6 wide receivers in my top 25-ish flex rankings or something, or maybe I'm going to have to move Bucky up a little bit more than what I currently have him. I don't know. But what I do know is I feel awfully comfortable with Bucky Irving this week in that matchup specifically, too. It should be another Bucky week. And I couldn't quite tell. Did anybody watch that game? Does it seem... I know the first drive it was not the case, because that much I did see. Did Bucky take over as like the first, second down back? And then White kind of turn into a third down back? Or like did Bucky do 2 drives to every 1 White drive or anything like that in the game? He ends up with, I believe, like 2-to-1 touches. So kind of that would fit like the 2 drives to 1 drive narrative. But I'm not sure exactly how they ended up breaking down that workload. And I'd be curious to know. Yeah, I just feel like they're moving to a more Bucky-centric offense. That was my suspicion before the week. We're getting... That matchup could have worked out for either one of them, but I thought it's more simple, more easy, more reliable to have run that game through Bucky, but it seemed like maybe they kind of hot hand approached it was the other possibility there. And from like the second drive on, it was just like Bucky. Yeah, but Bucky had like 7 receptions and White only had 1. And I believe a few of White's carries came at the end of the game. Let's see here. All right. Box score. Yep. End up with the same amount of attempts, but Bucky Irving 6 targets to Rachaad White's 1 target. So it ends up being a 1.5. My bad. 1.5 to 1 kind of ratio there. So not a 2 to 1. Except, let's see here. If we go looking, get to the fourth quarter here. Let's see, final drive, Rachaad White. Final drive, Rachaad White, 4 runs. So it's 12-8 before the final drive. Second to last drive, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White. So half of Rachaad White's rushing attempts were in the final 2 drives. And over half in the final quarter. This is all with that huge lead. Bucky Irving only gets 3 carries in the final quarter. Rachaad White gets 7. So it's 9-5 prior to that. There, it's a more than 2 to 1 ratio. So I think we've moved largely, but I don't know, because they started the game and they were both in on that first drive, and then it seemed like Bucky got going and they just went with that. I don't know if that was a hot hand approach. At least the third guy is now out of the picture. You never know. Yeah, Tucker did get a goal line carry or 2, like every week. Well, a lot of running backs are cool to give it to their running back room. And, I mean, you just got to be a team player. I mean, you take that long run, get the fresh guy in there to make that next run. I mean, it just makes some sense. It's annoying as all hell. I agree with you, Yahweh. I also hate it, but it makes sense. I mean, if I was a coach, I would definitely be getting fresh legs in there after a guy breaks a 70-yard run. Unless it's one of those cases where it's just like, it's near the end of the season, he's going for a touchdown total record, he's going for something in his contract that's going to get him $10 million, whatever the case. 12 touchdowns will get you $10 million. He's at 11. All right, well, get back in there. You got 1 yard away there, kid. We'll let him go for it 4 times in a row just to try and get it. But generally speaking, I think it makes sense. They get rewarded in the long run. They do that with Gibbs and Achane sometimes. Yeah. It's definitely a fatigue thing. Hey, I appreciate it. What kind of world? Yeah, we did that. Last week, started the week out, 25 subs out or something, and had a good Saturday night, and put us within 10. So actually, I don't know, maybe we're 30 subs out. Maybe got 15 to 20 or something on Saturday night, and we were about 10 out then Sunday morning, and passed it with about maybe a half hour to go. So hopefully it's still over 1,000. I think 1 or 2 people might have unsubscribed today. 1 subscribed. I don't know exactly where it's at. I saw at one moment it was at 1,000. I was like, oh no, don't dip back below. But I kind of anticipated that it might. All right. So I'm gonna be available all week too, guys. So I'm not planning on going super late, but I'm hanging around just in case West Coast people start to wind down at this point in time. What is up, George Play? How are you doing? As always, 9-3. Attaboy. Killing it. Trade question. Non-PPR. I appreciate you always letting me know that. Should I trade Bucky and JSN for Henry? Wow. A lot of people still moving things around. That's a lot. So your running back room currently without Bucky or Henry. Okay. Either way, you would have Bucky or Henry here. But Buckley / Henry, Gibbs, Benson, Mason. Okay, so Benson, Mason aren't doing anything. So you're going to upgrade to Henry there. So what are we giving up at wide receiver then? Going to go to DJ Moore. So we're putting a lot of faith in that ship actually having turned around. Marvin Harrison Jr., D-Hop, Waddle, and Amari Cooper. So there's some upside to Amari Cooper, potentially. I don't think that's going to turn into 10 target upside. Doesn't seem like that. Not in that offense. He's more of a distraction, D-Hop kind of guy, like what D-Hop's doing in Kansas City. 6, 7, 8 targets, I think. It's kind of what those guys are bringing to those offenses. Waddle, has he turned it around with everything going on with Tyreek? Okay. Then you do have D-Hop as well. Well, I think I would rather have JSN in this room, but you also just have 5 guys that we can put our best effort into predicting which ones to play. And you're obviously only going to have to pick 2 out of the 5. So you're just choosing best matchups, really. And you got Gibbs, Barkley, and Henry, which you're going to allow to just absolutely murder it down the stretch here. I mean, Bucky's pretty good, but hopefully he's not better than Henry the rest of the way. I mean, yeah, you're putting some hope into some of these guys. And, of course, MHJ I didn't even talk about, but who knows? Maybe that'll continue to turn around. It definitely didn't here the first week out of the bye. Bad week. Who knows? Maybe it was just a bad week. He's 9-3, so he can afford a loss, I assume. George. I mean, that's what a championship team is, right? It's Barkley, it's Henry, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's putting a couple of receivers out there who are in the best case situation, maybe are on the rise, hopefully. I mean, we've seen it from Barkley and Henry. Either one of them, any given week, can win you the week almost, can give you a very good shot at winning the week. Yeah, I mean, hopefully Henry just doesn't get old man here down the stretch or something like that. And then you got Kittle. Hopefully that'll continue to be good. Should. It seems like it's been kind of consistent this year with, Christian McCaffrey not quite being himself too. That helps. Yahweh, for me, being a smaller channel like this, for the most part, last year, when I was a very small channel, last year it grew throughout the entirety of the season. This year, it was peak in the beginning few weeks, and then it waned off. In both cases, once we get to this holiday type of season, we do start to see it wane down as people, get eliminated from playoffs and everything like that. Last year, it kind of kept it growing for me in terms of subs and everything. Maybe not necessarily always viewership, but just general exposure was still going pretty well throughout pretty much right up to the end of the season. I want to say maybe week 16 and 17, I didn't see much, but it was continuing to grow anyways, just because, there was still such a big market out there. I mean, that's still the case, but that was just my experience last year, that I was still having just a general increase no matter what last year. This year, growth, I mean, it just kind of comes in spurts with, like, if my videos if one of my videos pops off a little bit, that can help a long ways. And the streaming, sometimes all of a sudden you'll see it, like, it can come in waves. Like, all of a sudden 5-10 new people pop in or ask questions after like 20 minutes of near dead silence or something like that. So it was a similar thing. It just kind of, it can be on and off a little bit, and each week's a little bit different. Usually once or twice a month I kind of have like 1 or 2 days where I'll really make up like the bulk of my new subscribers from something that really catches on and goes viral. Not truly viral by any means, but enough for my channel. Yeah, that's George. I mean, I think that's how you win a championship, right? Just Henry, Barkley, Gibbs. We're gonna run it down your throats. Old school football, baby. I like it, and I mean, if you lose, you can say, "Well, I lost with freaking Henry, Barkley, and Gibbs." I mean, what can you do? What more can you do? You went all in. You're not freaking Jerry Jones saying he's gonna go all in. You're doing it. I like a George play. A little bit of risk, maybe. I still think Jason might be that best wide receiver out of that group, but there's just enough out of that group that I guess two of them for sure will pop off most weeks to some extent. Enough that with your running back room that you should win most matchups. It's just going to be a matter of getting them right. And maybe DJ Moore's turned a corner. Maybe Waddle's kind of turned a corner. He'll be good down the stretch. All right. So I was curious, guys. Marvin Harrison Jr., do you think we should have him ranked a little like above Hopkins this week? Let me know, chat, on that one. Rest of these rankings, do I need to be lower on Jamison Williams? Also curious on that one. I know you probably think I need to be lower on Cedric Tillman, and maybe if I get Tank Dell up here, maybe Debo. Gosh, I don't know, though. Pittman up here, Jordan Addison, Amari, Jerry, Keenan, Quinton, Rome. Xavier, Devon Vele. Yeah, that's kind of like the last tier of hope right here. Xavier, Devon Vele, Demario Douglas, Wandale Robinson, Rashad Bateman, Adam Thielen, Nick Westbrook, Akin. Freaking Nick. He'll be in my dreams forever after last week. All right, so I'm curious about Marvin Harrison Jr. above Hopkins, yes or no? Marvin's the definition of boomer bust. He normally has a great week when I bench him, and this week I start him. So, okay, so we will lower him in our rankings. Now, it's just such a good matchup. I think we got to go. Let's put him up a spot here. Then the next debate will be DJ Moore. This is a nice little tier here of like, it's a tier of hope. And then you got the tier of like, and then it turns into quick disappointment before turning a little bit more into hope here. It's just the cycle from 23 to 43 there. And Tank Dell, are we more hopeful on that one? I might just have to put Tank Dell up. What kind of world? Are you the one who asked me for loves and fades? Because I can go back to finishing that up as well here for the wide receivers. I would say Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a love. Tank Dell, a love. And honestly, maybe Pittman. Maybe the Chicago wide receivers as a group. All right. And my fades were Jameson Williams, Cedric Tillman again. And probably Tyreek Hill. I would put a fade on there. So that's 3. 3 and 3. I did my running backs. Let's pull the wide. I know I got the quarterbacks right over here. Let's pull the tight ends up first. So these I have. This is a super rough draft. I kind of just wrapped this up a little while before going live, and I touched them up a little bit, but not much. And these are all up on the website right now. Tomorrow, I'll actually update them. Right now, it all says, like, week 12. Tomorrow, I'll go through and update all that once I get these finished. But these are on the same sheets that I did the Week 12 ones on. It's just the front page on those. So you can't actually see it all. Because the links have not changed. Love and Fade, I usually just do one. This year's really been tough fading tight ends because there's like 5 that you can't fade, and then there's just like a whole group that goes pretty deep that has kind of been tough to fade. And this week's not very different. It's like, do you fade Mark Andrews? It's really tough to fade Mark Andrews, especially in a game that could kind of pop off. Probably won't pop off, but it could. So I think maybe I would end up loving Dallas Goedert. Well, yeah. I might be able to look into things. Hold on, let me look at tight ends. Let me see how Houston has been good against tight ends. What exactly is it? Sometimes it's just like they don't allow a lot of touchdowns to the position. They don't. They allow the least receptions. That's not great. Not great there. So maybe Evan Ingram would be a fade, actually. And then I could say Jonnu Smith would be a love because it's cold weather. Miami struggles in cold weather, and the tight end gives them some kind of beef, some muscle to hit back with. Sturdy guy. Say Tucker Kraft because, Miami, that offense is clicking. A lot of scoring opportunities, and that's what you want for a tight end. I think it would probably be Dallas Goedert, though. Baltimore's been a good matchup for tight ends. Targeted at, I believe, second highest rate in the NFL. 8.1 targets per game to tight ends against Baltimore. 65 yards a game is about third. It's top 5 number for sure. Maybe top 3. And without, he gets targeted a lot more, typically, without the wide receiver there, without Smith. So, there we go. Dallas Goedert's my love. Evan Ingram's my fade. I will definitely be moving those two. I think we're going to move Evan Ingram down a little ways here. But I don't want to go too far down because I do think that, maybe Houston hasn't faced a whole lot of tight ends. I think I even might have looked into that last week or 2 weeks ago. Houston hadn't really faced too many teams with good tight ends. Think about their division. Indianapolis, nothing really. I know they utilize those guys for like one play a game, but Jonnu Smith or Evan. I don't think I could play Jonnu over Evan, but I could take the shot on Dallas Goedert. I think Brock Bowers should be higher. Like 100th? Is that what you mean? Yeah, I don't know how much. I don't know what happened to Cade Otton last week. I don't know if it was Mike coming back or what. I wasn't too afraid of Mike coming back. I told people in terms of trading him away and trading for him, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that was something to keep in mind. Like I lowered his stock, a little bit with Mike coming back. But that was a little bit disappointing. Of course, they did just win by a lot, so they didn't really have to pass 30 times. That's on the lower end, especially for Tampa Bay. Ran 32 times. That's definitely not a typical pattern there. It was 3 targets. Six go to Bucky. Sterling Shepard got 7. So that's where they went. But he was not efficient. 7 targets. He did catch 5 of them, but he only got 15 yards. He averaged like 3 yards of reception. So I don't know what they saw there, what they were doing with Sterling, but I'm going to guess that it's not something that you have to worry about them saying, well, we got to do that again. That worked out incredibly well. Once again, without watching the tape, that's, it's a guess, but that should have been, that's probably 3 to 4 of those targets. Could have gone to Otten, which would bring Otten to 6-7, which is roughly where he should be at, like 7. You like 7-8. I don't know with Mike back if it's going to be 7-8, especially in that kind of game flow. So yeah, just a lot of things worked against him last week for Cade. And, it could be something similar here against Carolina. Tight ends have done really well against Carolina, though, so we'll be optimistic about it. But I wouldn't be shocked if you see another game where, they only throw it 28 times, 29. But Carolina's offense has picked things up, too, so that should help. Oh, maybe I should change that back to 1, just so I don't leave it like that. If Brock finishes the season really strong, do you think he can become an elite first-round pick? I don't know. I guess. I don't know. People, man, are crazy, and they do all sorts of things with tight ends. I will never draft a tight end in the first round, so you'll never see me suggesting to draft him in the late first round. I don't think that's happened since all the way back when Kelsey was in his prime. Just 2 years ago, people were still drafting Kelsey in the first round. So this was the first year that we finally got kind of normalized on tight ends, and that's because we thought there was 6 of them that were great, and then half of them turned out to be failures or didn't do better than some of the guys we were drafting right behind them. So I think that's going to prevent people from getting overly excited next time too. I don't know how that's going to impact the top end guys, but that might at least somewhat normalize everything else again. Even more. And tight ends suck. Even the best of them. And you look at Sam Laporta in the season he had last year, and then look what he does this year. They're just not what teams use to win games. Las Vegas is going to bring in some sort of wide receiver and everything. He's just not going to be the number 1 pass option or number 2 pass option on this offense going into next year again. But that doesn't mean that people won't be drafting him really high. So yeah, if he... See, I would probably still argue for Trey McBride over Brock Bowers going into next year, most likely. But if he finishes the season really strong, it'll probably be Brock Bowers. Maybe it'll be Brock Bowers and Trey McBride in the second round each or something like that. That would be my guess. I don't know if a rookie Shador is a whole lot better than Gardner Minshew in year 5 or 6, but he might be. Could be good for the tight end. But I don't know that he should be better. I don't know that he'll get 12 targets from Shador if they actually have wide receivers. But he could be the next guy to go in the first round and everything. Who knows? Definitely a better quarterback would definitely go a long ways. All right. Other than that, with these tight ends, we made one little change there. George Kittle, Buffalo, average matchup, so I think that's okay. Taysom against Los Angeles. He's just been so good. Yeah, I'm going to keep those top 5 like that. Okay, let me get you a little bit lower on those quarterback rankings. What about those? Because that's where the question marks really start to happen. In that 13 through 25, just a big fat tier that starts quickly. A lot of good options. A lot of good options. What order to put them in, I think it's a little questionable. Okay, so we moved we moved Evan Ingram back behind Dallas Goedert. Couldn't move him ahead of Jonnu Smith. What about T.J. Hawkinson? Am I too low on T.J. going in this? Am I overrating this matchup against Green Bay here? Should I put T.J. ahead of Evan Ingram? Maybe keep him behind Dallas Goedert, ahead of Dallas Goedert? What do you guys think on T.J.? It's been a little up and down since he came back. And last week, I'm pretty sure he wasn't doing great until overtime. I'm pretty sure it was like all overtime. So he ends up with 7 receptions on 9 targets for 114 yards. Let's see, out of those 7 receptions, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 114. 7 of 9 for 114. Let me 7 of 9 for 114. Let's keep that up there. So we go and we look at OT. That final drive, we get 1 target. Maybe it's the final drive in the fourth quarter too. 2 target, 3 target. Okay, so 3 targets. So now we're talking 6 of, or, well, I think he caught all of those. Yeah, they all had yardage next to him. So we end up 4 of 6 for 29, 41, 49 yards less. So we still had, so okay, 65. So he had an 8.5 point day and then a touchdown, right? He did get a touchdown? No touchdown. So that's an 8.5 point day. I mean, that's not bad though. 65 yards, that's pretty nice. Let's see what you guys said. Think TJ greater than Goddard? I mean, he's definitely a better tight end than Goddard. I just still don't know about this connection with Sam Darnold. Kind of insane how Jaden Daniels had like 11 points. You know how happy I was with that? I was like, oh no, not another Jaden Daniels bad game. And then he went off. Like, thank you guys. Did Brock Bowers play better with Gardner than O'Connell? Because Gardner is out for the season now. Yeah, I don't know that there's much of a difference. I don't know that you can compare because when Aiden O'Connell was last throwing, DeAndre Hopkins was still there. I don't know that Connell or Gardner is... They're pretty identical in terms of what they do and everything. It was a weird addition to bring Gardner to the team because, you know, O'Connell, you just drafted him and he's not like a whole lot worse than Gardner anyways. So I don't really view the difference with one or the other on the field by much at all. And tendency-wise, once again, I think it's really tough because the situation's just different now anyways. Yeah, exactly. Minshew's better, but, you know, because of experience, not for any other reason. And I don't think a whole lot of O'Connell. And I love Minshew, but, you know. You think it's going to be a JJ game? And JJ and Hawks fantasy points are an inverse relationship. I would argue that JJ and what's his name? The receivers are an inverse relationship. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just go. Jonnu Smith against Green Bay. Green Bay kind of sucks against tight ends. I mean, I might just keep him here. Not only do their linebackers not do good against tight ends, but their linebackers are banged up too. So you even got backup linebackers. Yeah, the numbers are only like average, but or slightly above average. Ugh, that's a tough one. Definitely like a tier break. So, like I feel like these three are in a tier here. Oops. Like that. Huh. Probably like that. Leave those two in their own little tier. And work from there. I'm a Dolphins fan. Watch all the Dolphins games. They really just use Jonnu as a wide receiver. Yeah, he's just a slot wide receiver. He's exactly what I thought they were going to use Odell Beckham as. There have been plays where he runs deep routes. I like Jonnu this week. Yeah, same here. I can't quite get Hawk over that because I know Jonnu gets about the same amount of targets, 6 or 7, as what Hawk has been getting. And I'd really like to see Hawk at the 8, 9, 10 target, that elite area to get him higher. And this Arizona defense does fine against tight ends. They're definitely far from bad against them. In fact, I think they're one of the better ones. I think they're at the bottom end of like being a, yeah. So they're highlighted in this like orange. Yeah, they're below average. But below average is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th worst tight end matchup via average fantasy points given up. So I think Hunter Henry has definitely been getting overranked compared to his performance, but then he gets another good matchup here. Zach Ertz has been great. He's been better than Hunter Henry, but I'm going to guess that you guys are going to say there's no way that you can rank Zach Ertz above Hunter Henry. I don't know. Let me know. I mean, I think there's a way. I could do it, but it feels like last week was just a down week. And he still... Is that Hunter Henry? I think he's still got 8 targets. He just didn't do much with them. Was it him who got 8 targets? Yeah, I think so. So I feel like that tier, this tier, goes from like Dalton Kincaid all the way to Pat Freiermuth. I mean, I could argue Pat against Cincinnati. My issue with Pat is the quarterback. Doesn't really like to throw to tight ends much. Yeah, maybe end it at Mark Andrews, even with the really good matchup for Pat. And then Pat would be up to Noah Gray. Yeah. So here's another, actually. Let's chat on these guys. I know it's way down here, but you never know. And then we're pretty much done. Getting there. Should Noah Gray be higher? His targets have not been good. But he gets. Where are you, Noah Gray? See, out of these groups, he gets targeted the least. 29th which is near the lowest. Looks like out of 32 guys that I have ranked for targets, or that I looked at the targets that I have ranked out of 32 tight ends. Yeah, 29th. So not great. He's just been really efficient with those targets. But I don't ever really expect that kind of thing to continue. But then he's got a good matchup against Las Vegas. Madison limited. Yeah, we'll see. They play on Sunday. They play on Friday. It's a short week. Probably testing him out today to see how he reacts to it. I would say definitely bad news for the long term. For, one more week. But, I mean, I don't want to be playing a Las Vegas running back this week if I can avoid it anyways, so. Whatever happens there, happens there. I think it'll be okay if that decision gets taken off of people's plates, because I don't think Abdul is going to have a good week. Noah Gray over Noah Fant. Yeah, I like Noah Fant, but he was showing signs of promise. It never quite came together. Then he gets injured. He's still kind of banged up, so we can just throw him to the bottom of this regardless. And honestly, I think we can get... I think Juwan Johnson should be up in here. As should... I'm missing someone. The other tight end in New Orleans. So I'll just move Fant down to about there. Taysom Hill's low-key top 4, buddy. Top 5. At number 4. That's not the one I'm talking about. Chiefs be losing to the Raiders, so there's going to be a lot of pass. Yeah, right? I kind of predicted that a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Got him all the way up there. And I'm a Taysom Hill hater, fantasy-wise. I don't hate anybody. But for fantasy purposes, not been a big Taysom fan over the years. And it was correct. But right now, the state of that team, he's the perfect Swiss Army knife for them. So I think I would, even against New York, I mean, they do a really good job in New York against tight ends. Targeted the least out of any team in the NFL. Tight ends do not get targeted against New York. Second least receptions, I think. It's just like he's just been like getting kind of hyper targeted regardless. Yeah, we'll leave it. He got lucky. He got a touchdown this last week. Cole Kmet against Detroit. Schultz, Jacksonville. Schultz really hasn't done anything. What's keeping Schultz up here? It's really just the defensive ranking, 23rd. Yeah, we'll move Kmet definitely above him. So, by the way, this is targets. Obviously, lower, like being first in targets just means that they receive the most targets per game. So, Taysom Hill, I included his rushing attempts in with his targets, so that's why he got his first there. This is the defense. This is my ranking, my EV. So it's a consistency ranking of these guys on a per week basis. And if a guy gets injured halfway through a week, I may not add that game to my calculations. So it's a highly doctored version of week to week rankings. Not highly doctored, it's a doctored version to more accurately represent what a whole game should look like from guys. And then this is the expert consensus ranking, which will change throughout the week. So we'll move Schultz back a spot. Pat will... Ooh, Cincinnati, really good tight end matchup. Do they happen to allow a lot of tight end touchdowns in Cincinnati, or what? I don't know. I can't quite... Oh, there we go. Just a little bit, no. 0.6. Yeah, tied for like second most touchdowns allowed. Well, that helps. Well, I've got Mark Andrews up ahead of those guys. The thing is, it's going up against Philly, which has like the best linebacker core in the league. And oftentimes, and safeties group is really strong. And those are really usually who covers the tight end is the linebackers and the safeties. So, they're most responsible. So I really don't think, when they get in the red zone, I think there's going to be one job from those guys. Especially since he just got a touchdown last week, too, so that's on fresh film. I'm not, like I got him in the same tier as Dalton Kincaid here as a top 12 guy. Like, you can make the argument for it, but I'm not buying the argument. I would probably put a fade on Mark Andrews if I hadn't put a fade on Evan Ingram. That would have been my debate on which one to fade between the two. What about this group? What are we feeling about these guys? Does that look pretty good like this? I mean, I know there's some sort of hold up, that wasn't quite right. Some sort of underground swell, I'm sure, for Noah Gray. And people look at the fact that it's a really good tight end matchup, and it is. But he really doesn't get targeted a lot. When he does get targeted, though, it's been pretty damn good. I'd be okay with him over Schultz. Schultz somehow gets targeted a fair bit more than him, but... I think I'm good here. I'll leave the back end there. Looks good. All right. And then those quarterbacks, you've got a chance to look a little bit deeper. Did you have any thoughts on those? I know you said you liked them for the most part there. There's who I don't have ranked. Let's see here. So I just went based off of, I think basically what I broke it down to was which one has been better on the season. And it's still been Pitts. So I know it's a slightly better matchup for Disley this week. Horse apiece. They get targeted the same exact amount. So definitely understand that. I wouldn't argue with you on that one. Yeah, that was the thought coming into the season too for these tight ends, but everybody thought it was well, I don't know. Everybody thought it was... Did they have another tight end before? Earlier this season? Oh no, did Hayden Hurst get injured again? That's too bad. I thought they had maybe one other. So maybe people were on Will Disley. Maybe I was the one who wasn't. But people were like a little too high on him, I thought. And I originally was kind of on Hayden Hurst, and then I moved off of that. All right, I'm going to look through this group here because I think pretty good with where this is at. Burrow, Purdy, Nix, Kyler, Stroud. Yeah, Stroud in a really good matchup this week, so we'll go for it. Jordan Love against Miami. A lot of things could shape how that game goes, including the weather. But we know Green Bay's not afraid to take the deep throws. Really tough matchup there, though. I would say Jordan Love would be my fade of the week. By the way, last week I did really good with my fades and my loves, and I will announce them when I do videos again next week. But it's a shame that I'm not doing videos this week because I did really good after a couple of rough weeks. Russell Wilson. Here, my quarterbacks, I had Tua as my love. He finished as a quarterback 3, and I had CJ Stroud as my fade, and he finished, I believe, where I had him ranked. Definitely within, like, +1 or 2. Well, if anything, I might have had him ranked a little bit lower. But quarterback 14 was the fade on him. Wide receivers, I loved DJ Moore, finished as the wide receiver 4. Josh Downs got injured, and Quentin Johnston was also a love. That did not work. Quentin Johnston was 0 fantasy points. My fades was Zay Flowers, finished as wide receiver 32. Cedric Tillman finished as wide receiver 75. Killed it there, but not unlike Quentin Johnston for my love, I did lose out on my fade of Jordan Addison. I had a feeling. Luckily, I think I was able to suggest to like 2 people to start Jordan Addison, so at least a couple of people that asked me questions. I still had him ranked like at a spot where, could use him. Running backs. Bucky Irving, love. Amir Abdullah, love. Finished as the running back 3 and the running back 9 on the week. And my fades, Jonathan Taylor. Nailed that one. Finished as running back 35. Ramondre Stevenson. Finished as running back 38. Killed it in the running backs too. Tight ends. Didn't kill it in. Tight ends, I loved Hunter Henry. Finished as the tight end 8-16. Not great. I wouldn't quite call this a failure, though, because what I loved about him was targets. He still got 8 targets, which is really good. That's something that you can work off of. Just didn't do much with it. So that's what I was talking about earlier. Did I get the right person when I was saying, didn't he get 8 targets? Yeah, it was Hunter Henry. And then faded Luke Schoonmaker. Only had 4 targets. Didn't do a whole lot with him, but he did get a touchdown. So we finished as the tight end 9. So, I had a little bit of bad luck in terms of the love and fade not working out there. So outside of that, though, crushed it. Love it. Russell Wilson, Cincinnati. I like that a lot. Trevor Lawrence, Houston. It's been susceptible. Matt Stafford, New Orleans, solid floor. Sam Darnold, Arizona, could get into it with another like that. Jared Goff against Chicago. Tough matchup, divisional matchup, though. So expect it to be a close enough game. Jared Goff will have to keep going there. Drake May against Indianapolis. I wanted to be higher on Drake. Am I too high on him, though? Should I have Tua ahead of Drake, but with the cold weather, Should I have Anthony Richardson up here? Against New England, kind of a good matchup. Geno Smith against the Jets, kind of scary, but also they kind of haven't been great. Caleb Williams against Detroit, finding himself, but Detroit doesn't allow a whole lot of touchdowns and stuff. Oh, Caleb Williams, another one that seems like I could go higher on him here, but to where? Kirk Cousins, Chargers, not a great matchup. Derek Carr, good matchup against the Rams, but it's Derek Carr and no wide receivers. Yeah, so the only thing I would think here that I can think of is Caleb Williams, should I move him up? Drake May, Jared Goff, should I move them? Tua, should I move them down? Gino, does he go up or down from here? I don't know. This group here. Any thoughts on this group? I feel pretty comfortable even with Goff against Chicago, just because it's a divisional matchup, with keeping him kind of above these guys. But what do you guys think on this little group here? And then that's going to be it. We're going to call it a night. And I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Help me out a little bit with some of these questions. I can show you, too, what I gathered on them in terms of... So this left one is the defensive rank. ECR is expert consensus ranking. EV is my ranking on these guys. So like Drake May, in his time as a starter, has been the second best out of this group. Geno Smith's obviously been very consistently good. 13th best out of this group. ECR's, much higher on him. Caleb Williams, kind of have him ranked exactly like basically where he should be. But that's based on his entire season, not just based on lately. Like the rankings a lot. All right, I'll leave him like this unless something strongly makes me move somebody. Caleb Williams, I think, is one that I feel like should be higher. Over Russ. I mean, I don't trust Russ with anything, so understandable. They were, except they kind of weren't. Based on what Pittsburgh does, it actually didn't. I thought it did, and unfortunately, I didn't hear anybody. The two people that I heard talking about afterwards on why it wasn't successful were also really hindsight. They were like, on the base level, this looked like it should have been a really great matchup and everything. But when you delve into exactly what, Pittsburgh does on offense, just kind of the go routes on the outside there, that's not like really where the defense, where the weakness is for the Ravens. And so apparently by the film watchers, X's and O's people, it was like, yeah, I don't even want to say on paper, but like, but general, just baseline statistics, not doing the deep statistics and stuff, it looked right. But once you actually look at the matchups, it wasn't such a great matchup. And Cincinnati's definitely a different matchup than that. But I mean, Russell Wilson, you can make the argument too. You say, well, he didn't do anything in a really great matchup, but then what? Look at what he's done. So first of all, what's he? Yeah, my EV got him back at 21, been inconsistent, but he had counter argument. Counter argument against Washington. No, against the New York Jets. He went for 27.3 fantasy points. New York Giants 16.2, Washington 19.8, Baltimore 8.1. Baltimore is the best matchup by far out of that whole group. Cleveland 16.5 last week. So I mean, I think it's fair against Cincinnati to expect like that Washington a 19-20 point game. But yeah, I mean, maybe he would be my love of the week based on where I'm ranking him. Maybe I'm a little high on him. But does that mean you think Russell Wilson should be lower or Caleb Williams should be higher then? Yeah. I think Caleb higher too. Should we just trust him over... Do we trust him over Drake May in a good matchup? What's the matchup difference between those two? Indianapolis. Quite different. Drake May in the 12th best matchup. Caleb Williams, 27th. It's a really tough matchup against Detroit. I'm trying to think. Okay, so they've managed to continue. Here's the thing. Chicago did really good last week against Minnesota, who rushes a lot. And if they can do that again as an offensive line against Detroit, then yeah, Caleb's probably going to do good. So do we think they'll be able to do that against Detroit? Because Minnesota might actually be better at that than Detroit, but Detroit's no slouch. So was it just a 1 week thing? Yeah, I thought Minnesota would eat Caleb too last week. But that our offensive line held up, like, really well. I'll get him up ahead of Drake May. I think it's worth taking a shot on that ceiling game. He's been really good for 2 weeks in a row now. The whole offense has been much different. You can move the ball against Detroit, so there's some sort of floor that should be good unless he just absolutely implodes, which is always possible, which is why I think we'll still trust Jared Goff on the other side of the ball. Yes, Bears, I think, have long played okay in divisional games. They just always lose them. Yeah, okay, there we go. We solved the problem. All right, gentlemen. I think with that, we have accomplished our mission. 3 hours in. Darnold did really good this week. Maybe put him above Lawrence or Russ. Well, everybody's going to want me to put Russ lower. Darnold did do much better this week after a couple of down weeks, but I think he still fluttered I don't know, did he? Where are you, Darnold? Yeah, it was against Chicago. No interceptions, was pretty impressive there. I'm okay with that. Probably over Russell as well. Yeah. See, Arizona's been a good defense as of late, and they're 23rd on the season, and they've been much better as of late. So they've been one of the tougher matchups. That's why I had him lower, but Chicago was too. Where are you, Darny? Of course, Chicago just had a really weird way of trying to prevent Chicago from scoring, or Minnesota from scoring. Austin, did we won? Nice. Attaboy, way to cheer him on, Austin. Austin, I'm just probably heading out here. Austin, let's get your opinion on this. Sam Darnold, how high do we go? Do we move him up higher? Going up against Arizona, which I will remind, as I was just talking about, Been a very good matchup. I don't even know if Austin might not be able to hear me. He might be at the stadium still. He went to the Bucks game. So Austin, let me know if you can hear me. I'll give a second before I continue here for you to respond to that. Fabrizio, you do not trust. Texans defense, strong. Talk about somebody they've been getting gobbled up lately. I like them too, but they've been getting worked. Here. It's hard for me to hear because of the stadium. Ahead of Stafford. Would you move him ahead of Trevor Lawrence and Russell Wilson as well? What about Jordan Love against Miami at home? What about Russell Wilson against Cincinnati? Nah, not Russell. All right, we'll stick with that for now. We'll see if I move Russell backwards, but we'll move Darnold up. We'll see if I move Darnold backwards again. But for now, we'll get him up a little ways at least there. That's fine. I'm cool with that. Houston allowed 27 points to Tennessee last week. Allowed, well, okay, 23 points to Detroit ain't so bad. 20 points to Indianapolis several weeks ago. Divisional game, though. They pretty regularly allow points. They shut down a couple of bad offenses. Dallas, New York Jets. And Chicago in week 2. Week 2 Chicago, which is, And I wouldn't put Jacksonville in that tier. I don't know. Pretty solid. What are they in terms of, let's see here. Ninth best matchup for quarterbacks in fantasy football. So that's why I hesitate on Trevor Lawrence a little bit there, or am excited about him to an extent coming back. All right. I'm leaving room. It's an AFC South matchup. I'm not changing that. I know Las Vegas has Kansas City's number, but I'm just gonna go with the stats on that one. I do not. These AFC South matchups oftentimes don't have a lot of scoring, and Pittsburgh has one hell of a defense. So I'm willing to take a little bit of a risk on Joe Burrow going off against Pittsburgh compared to Pat not going off against Las Vegas there. I was just checking to see if he had played Pittsburgh yet this year or not. To see how that game had gone. So, I'll give it a second thought, but for now, that was kind of my tier cutoff there. I made it for some reasons, so we'll see about that. Jason Ortiz, what's up? I gotta wait to ask you questions when the whole ranking is finished. Well, I've got all the rankings are set. I cannot click. What is going on with my... I don't know if I'm going to be able to shut down the stream. I can't click on my anything. See, it's not changing. I'm trying to click on the tab up top, but you can't see that. But look, I can't click on any of these. Well, I'm stuck here forever. Oh gosh, guys. All because I tried closing this one. Does Windows or does Mac have like an Alt Tab Delete like Windows does? Is there an Alt Tab Delete type of option? Alright, you know what? It's all gonna go down. I'm gonna close Firefox. I don't have chat right now. Oh, it all opens up back up. See, look at that. It all opened right back up. Even chat. All right. Well, thanks for the conversation and the rankings. I'm probably going to head out. See ya. Yeah, see ya, Fabrizi. I was trying to end the stream, but I just couldn't quite. All right. I will end it here. So you all have a wonderful night as well. You can delay ads for 10. Oh, insert. I don't want to insert an ad break. You already put a couple in, you stupid YouTube. All right, guys. You have a wonderful evening. I will be back tomorrow. Is it same time tomorrow night? Let me check. Got the schedule right on my desktop. Thanksgiving schedule says Wednesday, 7 p.m. So I will see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Have a good one. Or I won't. That's okay if you don't show up. Bye-bye. Wow.